Yo, what's up, YouTube? What's good? So tonight we are going to be looking at the one, the only Moist Critical, one of the biggest freaking YouTubers on the platform. We're also going to be looking at SNEAKO because these two got into a freaking debate. And what was the debate over? Uh-oh. Here we go. Unedited, the full debate over the age of consent. So let's get ready for the cancer. Let's get ready for the and not the boogie cancer. I mean the internet cancer. Let's get ready because this is gonna be fucking crazy. Yo, what's up, Red? What's up, Brad? Not gonna lie, I thought Moist Critical and Asmon Gold were the same person. That's funny. Failure says, "Was Michael says, I don't know shit about these two. I know that guy with the long hair has a comic book. He does. So Moist Critical also goes by Penguin Zero. And I know more about Moist Critical than I do SNEAKO. I'll keep it real with you. But Moist Critical is like one of the biggest YouTubers. And like he has streams where he literally just gives out money to people. It's freaking wild. Oh my god, Brad. Everybody's got some odd obsession with kids and minors these days. Let me get a sip of this drink real quick. Ugh. Everybody got some odd obsession with kids and minors these days. Man, I tell you what, Cat Williams had it right. Everybody's getting exposed, whether you're in Hollywood or YouTube. Everybody's getting exposed this year. It's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't get it, man. Like it's really not that simple. Just don't talk to the fucking kids, or if you're going to talk, talk to them in your comments section. That way everybody can see it. And the other thing is, just don't be attracted to fucking kids. It's not that fucking difficult. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. God Slap clears anything from Ripiverse. Damn. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I know some people are worried about the Elon Musk brain chip, but let's be honest here. If you could put one of those Elon Musk brain chips inside of the brain of a person that is attracted to kids, to minors, and you could use that chip to rewire their brain to where they weren't like that anymore, do you guys think that would be morally acceptable? Because I'm kind of on the fence about it. Because on the one hand, you're interfering with somebody's personality in their brain, and some people could say, well, isn't that kind of crossing the line into playing God? Maybe, but on the other hand, you're protecting kids. So it's a conundrum. Everyone is getting canceled for the right reasons this time. True that. I mean, Cat Williams was right. Everybody's getting exposed this year. Like, daggum. All right. So we're going to watch this. I thought it might bring up some interesting topics. I thought it would be some interesting content. Before we get to that, though, I do need to go ahead and put this on Twitter real quick so that the people on Twitter know what's up. So let me go ahead and take care of that. We are live discussing. That's not how you spell discussing. Discussing the at Moist Critical versus at SNEAKO debate right now. And boom. All right, that's on Twitter now. Good stuff. All right. So yeah, we're gonna watch this shit. It's gonna be there's some interesting topics brought up here, and like Charlie says some crazy shit. Charlie is Moist Critical, by the way. Charlie says some crazy shit, and SNEAKO says some crazy shit, and there's times in this debate, and I haven't watched the full video. I've only seen snippets of it, but I can already tell there's going to be times where I agree with Moist on stuff, and there's going to be times where I agree with SNEAKO on stuff. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. If it's a cure for those people, sure, but Elon is going to stay out of my head. We'll see. We'll see. I think eventually, because I've told people this, I said eventually what's going to end up happening is that we're all going to be cyborgs. Like, you won't just go to the doctor. You will have to go to the doctor and to the mechanic. It's going to happen eventually. We're all going to be fucking cyborgs. Not sure what's happening. I like Charlie. I hope he didn't do anything wrong. There is one take in here where I'm like, Charlie, really? Ugh. So we'll see. We'll see. Charlie is Moist Critical. The long-haired dude. Nothing surprises me anymore about these people. Yeah, it's sad. Yo, Summer Swan. I'm going to live in the woods at this point. I don't want to be an android. Well, no, you want to be an android. An android is a robot that looks like a human. You would be a cyborg, which means that you're a human with cybernetic enhancements. Technically, you would be like Android 17 and 18, but you have to keep in mind, like, that's actually a mistranslation in the English version. They're not actually androids. They're cyborgs. Because 17 and 18 were originally humans that had mechanic modifications made to them. That's not an android. That's a cyborg. That is just straight up a cyborg. The ones that are androids would be like Android 16. Android 16 is straight up an android. I want a membership. So I am going to be doing some revamps on the channel this week, and I do plan on introducing memberships later this week. So be on the lookout for that. I am going to introduce memberships. And essentially the memberships are going to be, so there's going to be two options. There's going to be a Patreon and there's going to be memberships, and both are going to have the same perks for the same price, and you just pick whichever one's most convenient for you. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. That's coming out later this week. Soon we're going to be making the synths from Fallout 4 at this rate. It's going to happen. I mean, dude, like, there's... So you got to consider something. Machines and AI and automation are taking a lot of jobs from people. If humans want to keep up with the machines, we have to start integrating with the machines. There's not going to be any other option. Because let me tell you right now, when these machines get advanced enough, they're going to be able to do everything you can do at your job, but they're going to be able to do it better. They don't ever have to go home to their families. They don't ever get sick. They don't ever get tired. And the biggest thing for the employers, they don't ever complain. So whether you like it or not, the future is machine. The future is machine. As for me, honestly, I would get some cybernetic enhancements. Now, I'm not going to be the first one to do it. I'm not going to be the guinea pig. But once they've proven themselves, I'll get some cybernetic enhancements. Like having a cybernetic eye to where I could see things that I normally couldn't see with a regular eye, or, you know, having some kind of implant in my ear that will translate other languages for me. That'd be cool as shit. Are you kidding me? That'd be awesome. That'd be absolutely awesome. You're going to stay as a pure human? Well, hopefully you don't go extinct, failure. Because the future is cyborg. Embrace machine. Reject monkey. All right, we're 10 minutes in, so I think we've given people enough time to hop on in here. So let's go ahead and start off this video let's go ahead and talk about this. Jump into this debate. So they start off talking about the age of consent, but let me be clear about something. This isn't just going to be about the age of consent, because they actually go on to debate other topics, and they get into general morality and like legality versus morality. It's actually very interesting. So that's why I thought it would make some good content, and I actually have some things I want to say on different topics that they bring up. The future is fucked? Not necessarily. That's how it starts. Benevolent AI and then conquering robots? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Y'all got to be more positive about the future. Y'all way too pessimistic. All right, let's jump into this. So here we go. So I am on Rumble, by the way, because it's not available on YouTube. Yeah, let me go ahead. Yeah, let me speed it up. But yeah, I'm on Rumble because it's not available on YouTube. So I had to go to Rumble. All right, so let's jump into this. 3, 2, 1.
Anything under 18.
That's exactly what a child is.
Yeah, I think that is a great line in the sand. If you're under 18, you are a child.
Your scenario earlier was if a 16 and a 21-year-old, both parties were consent, if the father was okay with it, the mother was okay with it, why not? Tell me a reason why that's wrong. Because you're
getting a child, one is not a child. That's the point.
Do you believe that somebody can go through hormone therapy? Can they change their gender if they're a child?
I think that's totally fine as long as everyone is consenting. As you agree with.
Okay, so as long as everyone,
if your parents are okay with it and you are okay with it, I think that's totally.
Hold on, let me slow this down just a bit. That's a little too fast.
Familiar decision to make, yeah.
Okay, so a child can cut their penis off and take hormone blockers and change their biology forever, but they can't get married? You know, I met somebody that
So y'all remember how I was saying just a couple of minutes ago that there's one take in this where I look at Charlie and I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. That was the take. That was the take. Rumble is trash. It really is. I actually have a Rumble account. I've got it linked in the description box down below, but it is kind of booty. I just have it there as a backup in case something happens to me on YouTube.
That knows you when I went to do the Jinxie podcast.
Oh, yeah? At Jinxie's place?
No, at Panera Bread. At Panera Bread. Luckily, I mean, I'm not saying this to like be a dick, but he was like, yo, I'm a fan of you. Like, it was like he had like some cancer thing outside Panera Bread, and he's like, MOISTCRITIKAL didn't donate anything. Maybe he was just trying to get a sale, and then when he said that, I'm like, yeah, bro, clips, not mags. And then I gave him $100.
Nice. That's a sweet tip.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't a scam.
I doubt it. I'm pretty trusting of people, especially like out at places. I just don't think people have a reason to lie.
Okay. This is the most scuffed setup I've had in a long time. It's whatever, bro. I'll just do it like this. And now I'm in Turkey.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty serene landscape, actually.
All right, let's see. I got to see where they actually get to the fucking debate. Hold up.
So they might as well sleep with a 14-year-old, right? Or
across the world. Okay, here we go.
And most people gather from the way you speak about it. You just explain it's a streaming platform. I feel like that most people know what that is.
They're like, "What's your YouTube?" And they're like searching it up for kids, and they have to download the app, and then they try to watch my video, and they got to sign in. But it's I do like the challenge, but yeah. So let's talk about what we came to talk about.
Yeah, man. So with all of what's going on here, why are you so insistent on like the age of consent being like unreasonable? Or at least that's the impression I and most people gather from the way you speak about it.
That's a valid question, and I want to first ask, like, what's your issue with my opinion on the age of consent, age of marriage?
Because I feel like age of consent should just be an accepted number, and I think the accepted one is 18. Like, regardless of where you talk about in the world, I feel like once you start talking about someone under 18, you're basically just talking like a predator. Like, I feel like 18 is a pretty well-established number for most sensible people. At 18, you're going to college, you're living your own life now, you're outside of your family nest. Anything under that, you're still a kid.
Okay.
So I've made this argument before. I think you could honestly, based on scientific research, make the argument that the age of consent should actually be 25. Now, we can have some debate about that, but again, if you look at the scientific research that's been done, like the part of the brain that deals with higher judgment and reasoning is not fully developed until you're like 25 years old. So from a scientific standpoint, you can make the argument that it should be 25. This whole thing about it being 18, like, I don't know where that number came from. What is it about the age of 18 that all of a sudden, like, does something magical happen that instantly turns you into an adult? Like, why is it 18? What is that based on? What is the logic? What is the reasoning? See, when I say that you can make the argument the age of consent could be raised up to the age of 25, I'm basing that off of scientific research. So there's something there that you can found the logic on. But again, like, this whole 18 thing, like, I'm not really sure where that came from exactly. There may have been some kind of logical reasoning for it, but I don't know exactly where it came from. So I do think, like, we do need to actually look at the age of consent laws and, like, maybe reevaluate them, not lower them, but potentially raise them just based off of science. If we did raise the age, a lot of things would change. They would, but they might change for the better. It's probably 18 because that's when you're done with high school, you're on your own and working. That's not necessarily true, though. That's not necessarily true. Like, some people don't. I mean, it probably should be 22. I think that's reasonable. You didn't get out of high school until you were 19. Yeah, it can depend on, like, the age and stuff when you were born. Like, it's not strictly 18. But would kids graduate high school or college sooner or later? Would people move out of their parents' houses sooner or later? I mean, people are not moving out of their parents' houses right now at 18. And the reason why is because the economy's so fucked, you can't afford anything. Most people can't afford an apartment right now. Buying a house is out of the question. There's so many people, especially in my generation, have given up on owning a house, straight up. So, it's, I don't know. Like, it's a different situation now than what it was when our parents were growing up. But let's continue.
It's not 18 in most of the United States where we both live, right?
Yeah, but that refers to, like, Romeo and Juliet laws, where if you're, like, 19 and with a 16-year-old, it's not technically illegal, but you're not a 19-year-old, right?
So the Romeo and Juliet laws, and I've talked about this before on streams, the Romeo and Juliet laws were created for situations like, let's say you have two people that are in high school and they're high school sweethearts, right? They're dating in high school and one's like a couple of years older. Let's say that one is 16 and one is 18. And so the 18-year-old just became an adult. Does that mean that they've been dating for 2 years? Does that mean that all of a sudden they should break up? That would be kind of unreasonable. Like, all right, well, I'll see you again in 2 years. So, no, like, it's meant to cover a very specific scenario. And I think, like, so the Romeo and Juliet laws vary depending on which state we're talking about. But I think, like, the highest range, and I don't know which states this applies to, but I think, like, the highest range that you can find is some states have it at a age gap of 5 years. So let's say that somebody was 17 or let's say they were 16, they could technically be dating somebody that's 21 and it would be covered under Romeo and Juliet laws. Now, that's for a very specific, narrow situation. That is obviously not meant to apply to larger age gaps or situations outside of that. There's a very specific situation that's meant to apply to. That's Romeo and Juliet laws. Now, honestly, I feel like something that important should probably be a federal law. Like, the age gap should apply to all states equally instead of having it state by state, because then you get into a lot of legal issues. Like, it could be legal in one place and not legal in the other, and it just makes it way too complicated. Just because the brain is still developing until 25 doesn't mean you have no brain until then. You can still make decisions. You can make decisions, but that doesn't mean you're going to be making decisions at full capacity. You're not going to be able to fully think through the consequences of that decision. So you're not really able to understand what you're doing fully and completely. That law saved my ass one time. Long story. Yeah, it's like that because there was like a big internet drama with somebody that involved like Romeo and Juliet laws, and I'm like, no, like this is not illegal. My opinion, age of consent because it should be 20 because 18, 19. I mean, that's an argument. But again, like I think the science points to it actually being older. But that's just me. That's just me. I think our laws need to, as science develops and progresses and we learn more about human psychology and biology, how the human mind works, I think our laws need to change and conform to scientific discoveries. Because otherwise the laws are based off of faulty reasoning and evidence, and that's not a good way to run a society.
Would you be arguing for like a 16?
Well, first off, I'm not arguing to lower the age of consent. I don't believe in the age of consent. We can get there. I want to establish some terms first.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's not.
So this is crazy. Like this is where SNEAKO has like a wild take. Like he was saying, I don't believe in the age of consent. So it's not even debating what should the age of consent be. It's just like, no, fuck it. There should be no age of consent. If her age is on the clock, she can get well, you know where I'm going. Like that's SNEAKO's take. That's fucking wild, dude. That's an insane take. Nobody would agree with that. No, well, some people would, but those people are weird and should probably be locked up in a prison somewhere.
Even just with Romeo and Juliet laws, there's a lot of states where it's 16 regardless of Romeo and Juliet. And then you go to Europe, most countries are 16. Japan, I think they just changed it. It was like 13 or 14, and now it's 16.
Okay, he's not wrong about this. So in some states, it is 16. In a lot of countries, it is 16. And yeah, in Japan, like it was 13 for a while. They just recently changed it to 16. So he's not wrong about that. I have heard from people like 18 is something that's more commonplace to the United States, whereas 16 seems to be more widely accepted outside of the United States. So there can be an argument for that as well from a legal standpoint. Anyways, now again, from a scientific standpoint, I can make the argument it should be older than 18, but from a legal standpoint, based off of what other countries are doing, you could say 16. Weirdo online people who are somehow influencers, bro. I mean, that's the type of people that get popular online is the weirdos.
Brazil, it's 14. I saw that from a Nelk Boys video. They were joking around about how they should, like, when in Rome, they're in Brazil, so they might as well sleep with a 14-year-old. Right? Or across the world, 18. I want to see, like, why do you think 18 is the age of consent?
Because that right now is the one that makes the most sense. I guess to piggyback off what you're saying, so if you're traveling right now, if you go to Europe, are you going to be comfortable like hooking up with a 16-year-old? Like just because it's legal there, would that make you feel comfortable?
No, I don't hook up anymore. I'm not
saying that you do, but I'm saying if you were, single and looking for someone, would you feel comfortable with it being a 16-year-old if it's in Europe versus US?
I wouldn't do that. Like, I would not have sex before. I think sex, like, out of wedlock altogether is something that we should not encourage anymore. And having...
So this shit is really fucking weird. So on the one hand, SNEAKO's like, just abolish age of consent laws. Fuck them. Like, they just shouldn't exist, period. There should be no age of consent. Like, whenever the mood hits you, you do with whoever you want to do. Like that. On the one hand, SNEAKO's saying that. On the other hand, he's talking about how sex outside of marriage is, like, morally wrong. And I'm like, huh? I mean, it's a weird ass take, dude. And I know SNEAKO's a Muslim. I don't know if it's a Muslim thing. I mean, it could just be a religious thing in general. Because, dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, even though I'm a Christian, like I've seen some Christians advocate for some weird stuff when it comes to age of consent laws and when it comes to teenage girls. I mean, I've seen some weird shit, dude. So it may just be a religious thing that this is based on. Not even one particular religion, but just a religious thing in general.
The age of consent, having that idea encourages people to have premarital sex, right? Just that term, age of consent, means you're consenting to something that we shouldn't be doing. So no, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Okay, so then instead of let's take it away from like premarital sex. Would you feel comfortable marrying a 16-year-old? Like, would you meet a 16-year-old with romantic intent if you're in Europe, and maybe marry a 16-year-old?
I
Nothing
wouldn't.
sexual.
I probably wouldn't personally, because I don't think that I'd be on the same mental playing field. I like to have intellectual conversations. I like to be with women that are around my same age, because then I can have conversations I like to relate to them. You know, I think there'd be too much of a gap. But other people, like, if they're able to get along, then I don't see why that's so much of a problem.
But why don't you see that as a problem? So for you, you're recognizing like this person's much younger than me. It is a kid. Like you are talking to.
Okay, so let's define these terms.
Let's in high school.
Before we even get to, let's define these terms before we even get into this conversation. What is a?
Okay.
So this is something else that I think is important to bring up, is that this whole idea about like somebody that's much older and somebody much younger being on two different wavelengths. The way that the mind of somebody that is significantly younger than you works is different compared to somebody that's older. Because one thing, the older person has more life experience. They've been through more stuff, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so like the way their mind works, their worldview, their comprehension is on a different level from somebody younger than them. So it creates a uneven power dynamic, an unbalanced power dynamic. And it may not technically be illegal, but it's not healthy from a psychological standpoint. It's kind of like the whole Boogie situation going on with his girlfriend. It's not illegal, but it's not healthy from a psychological standpoint.
What is a child?
I would use the age of consent. Under 18 would be a kid in my eyes.
So a 17-year-old who's 364 days, that's a kid?
Yep, I'm gonna use very hard set terms. If it is under 18, even if it's 17, 364, that's still a kid.
That's a kid. Okay,
I think it's important to have these hard lines in the sand where it doesn't have this kind of wiggle room.
Okay, why does that define kid?
As I said earlier, at 18, at that point, you're going out of high school, you're going to college, you're living on your own, you're no longer, a child under your parents' roof, for the most part, extenuating circumstances, of course, but at that age, you are starting to become independent. You are no longer just in your parents' household a kid. You are now going off into the world on your own.
You do admit that varies for most people, right? A lot of people don't move out of their parents' homes until they're 25, 26, 27. A lot of people don't.
There's nothing wrong with that.
A lot of people graduate high school 16. A lot of people graduate high school 20. It's a huge variable. So to set that in stone as that this is when you're a kid and this is you're an adult, that doesn't apply to most people. So why would you define a kid and an adult if it doesn't apply to most people?
Because it needs to be defined. Otherwise, you can get into this really gray area where you, like a lot of the things you say, can be misconstrued as you wanting to have sex with a 15, 16-year-old.
Who construed that?
A lot of people, because I mean,
I don't think anybody
clips that I played in the video, you were
no
saying like the age of maturity, the age of development, and then you use 16 and 17 in that clip. So for the age of marriage.
The definition of an adult is 18 years old.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fine establishment right there. Anything under 18 would classify as a kid. I think that's important.
Okay, but you're getting that from what? From personal experience, from the government, from the law? Because that's legally in America, that's when you become an adult, correct?
Yeah, legally.
So you're following the government's definition of an adult.
I think there needs to be a definition, and that one's been around for a long time, and I think that's the one most people accept as the closest to, like, yeah, this is when you become an adult.
It actually hasn't, right? 200 years ago in the 1800s in America, the age of marriage...
Yeah, we can't live like that. We're so much more advanced than that. Why would we play by those rules? Because at that point, are you going to start arguing that we should be able to start wedding 12-year-olds? Like, is 12 too young?
That's not the point. You're saying that the U.S. defined adult as 18. Well, I'm saying 200 years ago, the age of marriage in America was 10, and the U.K. was 7. Right, so if the government decides to change it, you're saying it's 18. If the government, if Kamala Harris gets elected, then the new legal age of an adult is 25. And there could be reasons to say that. They graduated college, they don't leave the house until this age, their brains don't develop until they're 25, your frontal cortex is not fully developed until you're 25 years old.
All right, there's the whole brain thing. See, now this is something that we're going to see with Moist as this debate goes on. He'll bring up these arguments, but when SNEAKO asked him, okay, like, what are the reasons behind why you believe this? Like, what's the logic? What is the reasoning? Like, where does this opinion derive from? And Charlie has a really difficult time actually coming up with reasoning other than, well, it's been like this for so long, or this is just what everybody has agreed to. And it's like, but that's not a good foundation for coming up with an opinion. You need to actually have some kind of, your reasoning needs to be based in some sort of evidence, something that you can point to and say, well, this shows why I believe this. Like, it can't just be, well, it's just what people have decided. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Like, that's not a good foundation. You can use science. You can use empirical evidence from research on society throughout history. Like, okay, well, this affected this society this way, so we need to take a look at that. Sociology, essentially. Like, you can use that stuff to come up with the foundation for your reasoning. But Charlie doesn't do that. Charlie doesn't really do that. He'll just say stuff like, well, it should be 18 because that's what we all agree to. Okay, but if we didn't have the evidence that we do now regarding human psychology and biology, then that means that the reasoning they used to come up with the age of 18 was actually based on flawed logic, on a lack of evidence. And now that we have more evidence about human psychology and biology, we can have a better understanding in order to properly adjust those laws. And again, I'm saying, scientifically, you could say it should be older. It should be around 25. But again, it's just, we're going to see this over and over where Moist really doesn't have a lot of backing for some of the stuff that he says. I mean, he's right in a lot of regards throughout this debate, but he doesn't really back it up with anything. And again, it's almost like he just did not come prepared to really argue. I learned from this video he's not really good at debating on the fly, to be honest with you. So, but let's continue.
A lot of people aren't making serious money. They're not able to live independently. A lot of things that you could use to classify an adult don't happen for the new age American until 25 years old. So if Kamala Harris raised it to 25, would you then say that that's the new age? Would you agree with that?
See, this is also true. Like most people, most 18-year-olds are not making enough money to live on their own. Hell, most 25-year-olds are not making enough money to live on their own. Like, the economic situation of young people today is vastly different from the economic situation of their parents, and it's vastly different in the negative. It's much worse. It's much worse.
I think that'd be totally understandable. Like,
right.
I think that's fine.
So then does that make anybody who sleeps with an under 25-year-old, does that now make them a pedophile?
No, I don't think necessarily that makes them a retroactive pedophile.
So then what's a pedophile?
But it's an accepted definition of 18 for a long time. Is
not for that long. Not for that long, and not through most states, and not through most countries across the world.
Do you see why this is like a weird take to have though? Like I don't think you're coming at this from a place of you wanting to fuck a 15-year-old, are you? Like,
Failure says we wouldn't be able to create and build a better life for ourselves until after 25 if we're not considered adults until 25. Why? You're going to have to clarify that for me.
To go back to that question, is 12 too young? Do you think 12 is too young?
I think 12 is too young for me, yes.
Well, for you, do you think 12 is too young in general? I feel like that should be an easy answer.
12 is too young in general, correct. Because,
okay.
Yes.
And I don't think
I want to define, but what you're saying, your definition of adult is not even the actual definition. Do you know what the definition of child is? Like, anybody watching this can Google it. You can Google it too. The definition of child is somebody who has not reached puberty yet. That's the definition.
Yeah, and then you get into like the abibophile or whatever as opposed to pedophile, and those are all.
I don't know. I have no idea what those terms are. I don't know what that is, but I'm saying that's the actual definition. When somebody reaches maturity, it's based off of biological and physical maturity.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it varies for everybody. Adulthood is not something that you can set in stone because it's different for the entire world. Right? I moved out when I was 14. A lot of people don't move out until they're 25. I went through puberty when I was 17. A lot of people went through puberty when they were 13, 14, 15. It changes for everybody. So for you to say that this is the set in stone age and say you're a pedophile if it's under 18, and then if you're over 18, you're fine. Well, then that's a weird line that doesn't make sense. So you're going to say this person is a terrible person if they're 17 years old, 364 days, and right after that, they're good to go. Well, it changes for everybody. So we have to have something, a definition. We have to be realistic with everybody. Well, we don't. But you're saying we, but that's not even the case in the country we live in.
Why argue against it? If you don't want the age of consent to be lowered, why are you making arguments that the same people who do make? Right now, what you're saying is kind of what NAMBLA used to say, if you're familiar with NAMBLA.
I have no idea what this is.
NAMBLA was the North American Man-Boy Lover Association. They
right,
were
because these people don't want to, they want to have sex to take advantage, and they don't abide by the rules of marriage. They don't have any sort of morality. They just want to have. I'm arguing for this because I believe in marriage. Sex should only be within wedlock. That's why I'm talking about this.
Why why, if you're arguing, we can take sex out of it. Why, when you're arguing for marriage, do you want it to drop? Like, okay, 16. So
when did I say? Just because I don't believe in the age of consent does not mean that I want it to drop. Like, see, that's where like the internet can go apply that. Just because I'm saying,
well, no,
because you're saying the definition of an adult is 18. I'm saying that's an arbitrary number and that makes no sense. We should encourage marriage when people reach maturity. That makes much more logical sense.
That's even more vague though. Like, but also you directly.
It's vague because it's different for everybody.
Okay, I get where SNEAKO's coming from a biological standpoint, the whole puberty thing. Now, I don't agree with it because, again, I think it should be based more off of brain development and human psychology. I think makes a lot more sense. Like Brad Dub is saying, 25 sounds more ideal. Exactly. So I think that makes more sense. But I understand his logic and reasoning behind what he's saying, even though I don't necessarily agree with it. And he's bringing more of a logical argument to the debate than what Charlie is. Because, again, like Charlie's not really bringing a reason for why it's 18. And, again, I brought up this question before. Why is it 18? That does seem like a very arbitrary number. Now, I have a suspicion, and I may be wrong about this, but my cynical mind automatically goes to the reason that it's 18 probably has something either to do with the military or it has something to do with corporations and making money. I get the feeling it's one of those two things. I haven't really looked into why the age of consent is 18, but I have a feeling it's something more cynical than just, well, this is what at the time we believed was the proper age where people were mentally and physically an adult. Like I get the feeling that there was something more cynical to it than that because that's just how the elite are. But it does seem like a very arbitrary number that's not based in any kind of actual rationalization. Even though I don't agree with SNEAKO's argument, I can at least understand the logic and the reasoning behind it, and it's more logical and reasonable than what Charlie is saying. Because Charlie is saying, well, it should be 18 because it's been 18 for the longest. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, slavery was A-okay with people for thousands of years. That doesn't mean that at any point slavery was okay. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't change slavery laws. I mean, like, that's not an actual argument. If that was the case, we would never change or progress or move forward or improve as a species and a society. Like that's just a very stagnant reasoning. It's based in stagnation. If the brain isn't fully matured until 25 or whatever age it is, then the age of consent should be increased. Exactly. Like I said, like any time that science and anytime that science discovers something that changes our understanding of human psychology, I'm always going to say that the laws should conform to that new discovery. Now, that's very difficult, especially in our country, because to change any kind of law, it's very difficult to do. But given how quickly science advances, there should be a conversation that maybe we need to change how laws are passed in this country. That way we can conform faster to the reality of the situation that we're presented through scientific and empirical research. There's an argument to be made for that.
When someone can legally drive, they should be able to legally marry. You did say that to me.
Right. When somebody is legally ready to drive, the same thing. I think adults should drive cars. That's why I told you that.
Yeah, but 15 and 16-year-olds can drive cars. You said when someone can legally drive...
Across the world, 15 and 16-year-olds can have sex too. I think that people should not operate... But see... You keep thinking that I'm saying this because I want the age to be lowered. That's not what I'm talking about at all.
That's what it comes across as, though. When you
maybe with the internet brain, because people in the West, they want to have sex all the time and they have a different sort of mindset. Right here in the Middle East, I'm in the Middle East right now. They want to get married and then have sex. So people, just because I'm saying this does not mean automatically lower. No. That's not the case at all. I want to ask you then, because you're insinuating that it sounds creepy and that I sound like a pedophile. What's the definition of pedophile?
It is an adult who is attracted to children.
Yeah, it comes from the Greek word pedo means child and phile means love. So somebody who loves a child.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
An adult who is attracted to a child.
To a child, somebody who has not reached physical maturity.
Yes.
That's the definition of child. Somebody who hasn't
Right.
reached physical maturity. It has nothing to do with 18. The definition of the word talks about physical maturity, not the U.S. government definition that you're basing it off of.
But there needs to be an agreed upon place. Otherwise, you get into this area. Again, you said,
Okay, see, this kind of goes into the conversation I was having last night, where a lot of people think, well, because it's the way that America has designed it, or it's because this is how the American government has defined it, that is objectively what is true. And that's not necessarily the case, because these type of, questions, these type of debates have been going on long before America was even an idea. So this idea that it's going to be the American definition is going to be the definition, that is not a very sound logical foundation. But the idea of physical, and again, I don't agree with this, but the logic and the reasoning of, well, it should be because of physical, biological maturity. That's an argument that I can at least understand the logic and the reasoning of. I don't agree with it, but I can still understand where that idea would derive from, and I can understand it. Rather than, because one is saying, okay, this is something that is objectively true in nature. Like, this is something that is objectively true in nature. And nature transcends nations. It transcends cultures and societies. So you're deriving your reasoning from something that is more permanent, more substantial than any one culture, nation, or government, which is nature and biology. So in that sense, that logic supersedes the logic of, well, this is just how we do things in America. Okay, but that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Our laws should be based off of some kind of higher reasoning. Like, our laws just can't be, well, let's just do this, let's just do that. You need to have reason and logic for why you're creating the law in the first place. You see what I'm saying? It has to derive from some kind of higher source. Now, again, I don't necessarily agree with what SNEAKO is saying, because I would go with the scientific argument rather than the I guess you would call it the nature argument. But I can at least understand where he's deriving his reasoning from. Whereas with Moist Critical, it's just, that's what we all decided. That's what the government says. And it's like, but that, I don't give a shit. Like, that doesn't matter to me. You're not going to convince me with that.
when you can legally drive, you should be able to legally marry.
Right.
We don't have to talk about sex. Do you think it's okay to be marrying a 15 or 16-year-old? Probably not, right? Like, I would imagine, probably not.
It depends. So this is where the age of consent becomes arbitrary. I don't even believe like that. Consent is a weird thing to even speak about, but it should be the father, right? If I want to marry a girl, I shouldn't even just get consent from her. I should get consent from her parents. She should want to say yes. Her parents should want to say yes. That's consent from the family, and then you get married. That's the Islamic way. That's the only way that makes sense.
Okay, see, now he's bringing in his own personal religion and faith into the argument, and that doesn't matter. See, this is where SNEAKO is starting to fuck up now, because he's looking at it from a very a cultural standpoint, a Islamic, Middle Eastern standpoint, and I get that's where he's at, that's where he's from. I understand that, and maybe that works there. But in the West, we're a very secular culture. So you can't just say, well, my religion says this, so this is what we're going to do. That doesn't fly in Western democracies. That doesn't fly in most developed countries. That's not how we do things. The way we're supposed to do things is to base our policies and our laws off of evidence, reasoning, logic, science, that type of stuff. And when he starts bringing Islam and the Muslim culture into the argument, again, it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't mean shit when we're talking about developing laws. It just doesn't matter.
This American way of this girl wants to have sex now, she gave consent, and then you get all these false allegations like, oh, she was drunk, oh, she took it back, oh, she retracted consent. All this stuff, like there's not even a specific way that we can define consent. What is consent? Some people say it's yes, some people say it's like nonverbal communication, some people say that it doesn't count because she was under the influence or she was intimidated. Even this is an arbitrary, is a weird way to define when you're allowed to be in a relationship with somebody.
You're kind of talking around it, though. Those are all very different things. Like I said, we don't have to be talking about sex. I was talking about marriage. The question was, do you think, and you said when you are legally able to drive, you should be able to legally marry. Do you think it is okay for an adult to legally marry a 15 or 16-year-old? Okay,
well, by my logic, if the man is physically mature, if he's went through puberty and he's mentally ready at the age of 16, he's an adult. If he wants to get married to another girl who becomes a woman...
I just said an adult. Is it okay for an adult
right, and I established, but we haven't even established...
So again, like, I think this is where me and SNEAKO would diverge, because I think he is conflating mental maturity with physical maturity. And those things do not necessarily go hand in hand. So you can be physically mature at 16. This is true. Biologically, you can be mature at 16. But does that mean that you're mentally mature? Not necessarily. And again, the science is showing that that's not the case at all. So what he's talking about is from a biological standpoint. What I'm arguing is from a mental standpoint. And I think the mental standpoint, is the more sound route to go when it comes to forming an idea on this. Failure says, I feel like there aren't enough cons to change the age of consent from 18 to 25. Oh, I do. Because I remember being 18 and I was fucking dumb at 18. And I made dumb decisions at 18. I definitely think that there's an argument to be made there for sure.
Exactly what an adult. So if somebody goes through puberty and they're physically ready, they're biologically ready, they're an adult. So the two 16-year-olds can be considered adults by my logic.
We're not talking about.
What are you talking?
Yeah. See, okay, so again, like we're talking about an adult getting into a relationship with somebody that's under the age of 18. We're not talking about two 16-year-olds. Here's the thing. No one gives a shit if two 16-year-olds hook up with each other. No one gives a fuck. That happens all the time, every day. All right? We were all that age at one point. I'm sure that we all got down and dirty with our classmates at some point. That's a different situation because the power dynamics are not the fucking same. When a 16-year-old shacks up with a 16-year-old, they are considered to be each other's peers. They're on an equal playing field in terms of power dynamics and in terms of where they are in life, compared to a 16-year-old and a fucking 60-year-old, for God's sakes. Like, there's clearly a difference there. And that's the nuance that I feel like a lot of people don't understand. Not me. 22 for me. Y'all nasty. I mean, I'll just be straight up honest. The first time I ever did anything with a girl, I was in high school. We were both in high school. We were both in the same grade. So, just be honest. But again, like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares when two high schoolers hook up. It's like, that happens all the time. That's not an adult hooking up with a teenager. That's two teenagers hooking up with each other. That's different.
We're talking about an adult.
That is an adult.
What
I'm saying is that so then what is an adult now?
Okay. We'll use your age. Someone who is 25. Is it okay for someone who is in their 20s to marry a 15 or 16-year-old? And let me explain, when you're doing your arguments, it's coming from an adult. I've never heard you say, like, two teenagers should be able to marry. Like, I haven't heard that with these takes. I'm talking about someone in your position in the 20s. Is it okay for you to marry a 15 or 16-year-old? But
teenager, even bringing up this term that has nothing to do with child and adult. So there's two phases. You're a child, and then you physically mature.
I don't know why you can't just
your
answer
body
that
becomes.
directly.
I'm saying the difference between a child and adult is when you're physically and when you're biologically, when you're mentally ready to have kids. That's the teenager is not even. So you added another term in this. It goes child.
But again, the mental maturity does not necessarily come with the biological maturity. Those things do not go hand in hand. He's creating a logical fallacy here because he's making the assumption that when you're physically mature, you're mentally mature. And that's not always the case. In fact, that's rarely the case.
An adult, you mature and then you're physically ready.
Well, I didn't add it. You brought in two 16-year-olds. We were talking about an adult and a 15 or 16-year-old. I was not the one that brought this into the equation.
Right. If it's illegal,
So, like,
if it's illegal, because we believe in Islam, we believe that we should obey the law of the land. If that's illegal,
Okay.
if that's not permissible, then we don't do it. We don't break the.
I really wish he would stop bringing Islam in. I mean, listen, you guys know I'm a Christian, but if I was debating something like this, I'm not going to say, well, in Christianity, we believe it. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, he needs to stop bringing Islam into this. Like, Islam does not matter in this conversation. It just fucking doesn't.
Law. But I'm talking about your personal beliefs. Do you think someone in their 20s should be able to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
To someone in their 20s should. I mean, I personally wouldn't do it. I don't know many people who would do it. The maturity for people and the teenagers in the West is getting much worse. But there are.
We're talking globally. Let's just talk globally. Like, do you think it is okay for? And I'm not talking about just you specifically anymore. Anyone. Do you think it's okay for anyone in their 20s, an adult, to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
A 21-year-old, if there was a marriage where the father consented and the daughter consented, and it was both good on both families, and they wanted.
Okay, why does stop bringing the Islamic stuff, the Islamic rules into this debate? No one cares about the father's consent. We are talking about the younger person, the underage person in this situation. We're talking about, are they able to consent? Because they're the one getting into the relationship. This whole thing about, well, the father needs to, like, no. This is not the fucking 1650s, dude. All right? People don't have to go and legally get the dad's permission to marry the daughter. Like, that's fucking stupid. This is 2024. Cut that shit out.
To do it. Why am I going to get involved? Why should we get the government involved?
Well,
why would I tell them if everybody's consenting, if everybody's okay with it, if the parents are okay with it, if nobody's being harmed, if it's going to be okay, if they're both abiding by the rules and they're not hurting each other, why not?
But they're still, like, they're at best a sophomore in high school. They can't consent to something like that. Like, do you think
okay, so now it's
so
sophomore in high school versus senior in high school. What's the difference? Like, what's the difference?
I'm just saying, like, I'm giving you a perspective on where that age would be in life. Like, they can't consent to something like that.
That's probably you're bringing up an outlier that's probably not going to happen as much. I'm saying that these are arbitrary reasons to say, like, a sophomore versus a senior in high school. How much different were you really maturity wise? It wasn't that much of a difference. The reason that you keep saying 18 is because in California, where they post Hollywood movies, it's 18. And so everybody across the world, this is the standard that we believe in. This is the correct age, exactly on the dot. And if it's anything under that, are you going to say here that if a 21-year-old got married to a 17-year-old who was almost 18, is that 21-year-old a pedophile?
I would say that is a morally bad thing to do for sure.
Not morally bad. Not morally bad.
I wouldn't call them a pedophile.
So when does somebody?
So I wouldn't necessarily argue that that's a morally bad thing to do, because, again, we're talking about an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old. That's a 3-year age gap. It's very likely that they could have gone to high school together. They could have been dating during high school, and they just have that small age gap. And it's like, I mean, again, like, that's I wouldn't necessarily say that's morally wrong or illegal, as long as it's done within a very specific circumstance and a very narrow circumstance. Now, if you have, like, a 21-year-old, like, sneaking around high schools, asking high school girls out and stuff, it's like, okay, the dude's probably a creep. Let's just be real. The dude's probably a creep. But if it's like, no, they were students in the same high school dating, there was like a 2 or 3 year age gap, you know, what the fuck ever. But again, it's that's a very gray area. It just depends on the situation.
Become a pedophile.
I would say when you have this position, you're
not answering the question.
I'm explaining it.
Okay.
When you are in your 20s and you start preying upon someone who is still a child, a 15, 16, 14, anything under 18, a 21 and a 17-year-old.
But you still haven't specifically defined what a child is.
I did.
So then why? Okay, there you go. So if pedophile is love of children, and your definition of adult starts at 18, if the 21-year-old marries a 17-year-old who's turning 18 tomorrow, he is a pedophile based off your definition.
As I said, if he would wait, he would not be. Then
well, not wait. Based off your definition, that person's
in that position. There is no reason to not wait for the legally established, agreed upon definition of when you stop being a child.
Okay, so now we get into the question.
But again, why is that the legally agreed upon definition? What is when these laws were established, what was the logic and the reasoning that was used in order to promote, in order to persuade politicians and the people to vote on these laws? What was the argument? What was the reason? What was the logic that was used to create these laws in the first place? That is what Charlie needs to bring up. That's what he needs to talk about. He can't just say, well, we just all agree to this shit. Well, fuck, man. Tomorrow we could all agree that anybody with brown hair has to fucking die for the good of society. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Based on what logic? Based on what reasoning? That's fucking dumb. Just because everybody agrees to something does not make it logically or reasonably sound. So again, he's caught himself into a logical fallacy. It's the age of consent should be 18 because we say that the age of consent should be 18. That's a logical fallacy. That is cyclical logic. You've trapped yourself in a loop. And it doesn't make fucking sense. So again, like, he needs to come up with the reason as to why these laws were created in the first place, why it was 18 in the first place, in order to actually make a stronger argument. And he's not doing that. And again, I don't agree with SNEAKO's argument, but my argument is 25 because of science and scientific research. I can point to that. I'm not sitting here saying it would be like if I got on here and I said, well, the reason I think that the age of consent should be 25 is because I think the age of consent should be 25. Well, who gives a shit what I think? That doesn't matter. What matters is the science. So again, like, he needs to come up with the actual logic and reasoning that are the foundation as to why the age of consent is 18. And he's unable to do that because honestly, he probably hasn't looked into it. He's just... It's kind of this is why I say that I don't think Charlie is a very good debater, is because he's coming into this and he hasn't really thought about the issue beyond the most surface level. It's just like, well, the age of consent has been 18 for so long. So it must be that for a good reason, but he's not actually looked into the reason. It's just like, well, it's been like this for so long, so it must be good. Again, you need to look into the history. You need to look into like the law itself, why this was created, in order to really understand like what you're arguing. Just saying, well, it's been like this for a long time, therefore it's good. That's not sound logic. That's not sound reasoning. And you can just tell by the look on Charlie's face and his facial expressions, he realizes he's kind of out of his league here and out of his depth. And again, I'm not saying that I necessarily dislike, like, I know like I'm coming off like I'm really like just hating on Charlie right now, and that's not it. But I'm trying to put this out there because in the very unlikely event that Charlie actually sees this stream, I want him to understand where he's fucking up as far as debating goes so that he can improve and become a better debater. I'm putting this out there because I want him to actually get better at this shit so that he can debate much more confidently. Because right now, this is not a good debate performance. It's not as bad as Joe Biden's debate performance, but this is not good, man. It's not good. Because even though I disagree with SNEAKO's logic and reasoning, the fact that he does have some semblance of logic and reasoning to what he's saying is making his point come off stronger. And I guarantee you there's going to be more people that are actually going to agree with his points compared to Charlie's, just for that reason alone. YouTubers and streamers having the weirdest and creepiest debates online. It's the internet. The internet is built on weirdness and creepiness. I mean, let's just be fucking honest.
Question of whether the pedophile thing, is that a moral answer or a legal answer? Because it seems like morally, you know, it's pretty much, okay, it's almost there. That morally, that's not a pedophile. Legally, it is. But those are two different things.
But they don't need to be. They,
Yes,
they can coexist. You recognize that, right?
No.
Like,
then that's when you muddy up morality with the law. Now you're allowed.
Yep. See, that's another good point. See, what What Charlie's not understanding is that a lot of our laws are derived from some sort of morality, and our morality is derived from some sort of logic, or at least it should be. Some sort of empirical, some sort of independent observation about the world around us. But what he's doing is he's conflating legality with morality, and those are not necessarily the same thing. Again, slavery was legal in most of the world for thousands of years, but that didn't make it right. It didn't make it morally good. You get what I'm saying? Like, just because something's legal does not mean that it's correct. And in the same vein, just because something's illegal doesn't make it correct. So when you start conflating legality and morality together, you start to trap yourself into a philosophical situation that is very it's frustratingly hard to emerge from. Like, you're digging a hole for yourself in the philosophical stance.
Allowing the government to determine morality, and that's where things get muddied up, because if they changed it with like they did before, like 200 years ago in the 1800s when it was age of 10, that was fine. Legally back then, they were not a pedophile. Today, legally, they are a pedophile. There's no consistency there.
But
You can't allow the government to determine morality because it changes all the time. Tomorrow, if the US government legalized bestiality, if the government legalized incest, based off your logic, there'd be no reason why that's wrong. Can I ask you, Moise, do you think that incest...
So and again, this is why I go with the whole science argument. Because it's only been in recent years that we've made the discovery about the human brain, the part of the human brain that deals with higher judgment and reasoning, not developing fully until the age of 25. We only recently discovered that. But what you have to understand is that even though we've only recently discovered that that's true, that doesn't mean that it wasn't true before we discovered it. Like, you get what I'm saying? That was still true. Like, it's been true all throughout human history. The brain, the part of the brain that deals with higher judgment and reasoning was fully developed at the age of 25. And that has been objectively true throughout all of human history. Even though we didn't know that, that was still occurring. Like, humans thousands of years ago, their brains were not mentally fully mature until the age of 25. Even though we didn't know that, that was still true of the human brain. It's kind of like gravity, like the existence of gravity. Gravity still existed before we discovered it. You get what I'm saying? So what it is that we're not creating these things out of thin air. We're discovering these things. The things themselves exist independent of us and of our discovery. But once we discover them, at that point, we need to take these objective truths and this objective evidence and this objective reality, and we need to apply it to our lives and to our societies and to our laws, because they have always been true. It's just we're just now discovering them to be true. It's just like with Mars always existed before we discovered Mars. It wasn't like the discovery of Mars created Mars. Mars objectively existed before we discovered Mars. This thing about the human brain not being fully mature until 25 was true even before we discovered that it was true. We just didn't know about it. But what Charlie is saying is not consistent, because we could just, like, if we don't base these laws off of something that is objectively independently true from the human experience, then we're just making shit up. And that is not consistent. That's not stable. And you can't base a society or laws off of that, because then it's just like, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want. And that's not a society. That's chaos. You know what Bill Nye says? Science rules. See, now I want to go and watch the Bill Nye opening theme.
This is wrong.
Yes.
Why is incest wrong?
There is under no circumstances any excuse for anyone of the same bloodline to be romantic like that, by no means at all.
Why?
I really think it should be pretty obvious why.
I don't know.
See, oh my God, this is so frustrating. You can't just say, well, it should be obvious why. No, Charlie. It's because incest vastly increases the chances of genetic disorders and disabilities for the offsprings of closely related family members. That is the scientific reason as to why incest is bad. Now, if you want to step outside of science, we can get to the psychological. There are a lot of psychological issues that come from a lot of psychological damage that has been researched and that has been researched by the experts, that incest causes psychological damage. So even outside of the biological reasoning, there's psychological reasonings that you can fall back on. Again, like you can't just say, well, it's just obvious. No. You have to actually explain this shit. I mean, yes, most people know, but you still need to explain this shit because you're in a fucking debate. You can't just come in and say, well, it's bad because it's obvious. You can't fucking do that, dude. That's not how debates work.
Oh, I'm asking.
I know where you're going with this because I've heard this argument from another streamer before about like the ethics of incest. If they don't have a kid and thus don't pass down like bad genes that lead to a bad child. I've heard this before.
Well, so I want to hear your answer, because are we going with legal or are we going to follow some sort of morality, some sort of consistent morality? Why is incest wrong?
Incest is wrong because I believe that no family dynamic should ever include.
Okay. He's already fucked up. Incest is wrong because I believe. Stop right there. No. It's not about what you believe. It's not about what you pull out of your ass. It's not about what you feel. No, you need to have some kind of independent reasoning, facts, and evidence in order to be the foundation of your belief. Otherwise, you are literally just pulling it out of your ass. He should have stopped. He should have stopped right there. He's already fucking up.
Include a sexual relation.
Why?
I don't think that, because it is not healthy. It is a bad thing to do. It is a horrible thing to subject.
It is not healthy. It's a bad thing to do. Why is it not healthy and a bad thing to do? Again, he's only getting to the very surface level of these arguments.
Someone to.
But why is it horrible? Because who told you that?
It's what I believe, and also
it doesn't matter what you believe. There's some people out here that believe the world is flat. Who gives a shit? If the evidence says otherwise, who cares what they believe? Charlie, come on. You're smarter than this. What are you doing?
if you do have a child with your own kin, the child suffers.
Okay, but say it's two brothers, two gay brothers, Chris Tyson and other Chris Tyson and Chris. If they're two brothers and they decide to be in a no, genuine question. It's what you believe in. I want to figure out where your beliefs come from. You personally believe that.
My beliefs come from a place of what I believe to be moral.
But why do you believe it to be moral? You can't just say, I believe it to be moral. You have to answer why. Why? What is your reason? What is your logic? What is the foundation of your argument, man? It's not that fucking difficult. I mean, honest to God, come on. I know you're smarter than this, Charlie. Come on.
Where I don't believe that anyone in the same family has any position to be romantic with one another. I don't think that's a
your
healthy
morality
dynamic.
comes from yourself?
My morality comes from like the world around me. I don't have.
Okay.
So your morality is shaped by the world around you. Are you saying that your morality comes from other people? Okay, but where does their morality come from? Where does their opinion? You see what I'm saying? You have to have something that exists independent of individual humans. Something independent in order to derive your logic, your reasoning, and your morality from. It can't just be, well, because the people say so, or because I say so. Well, who are you, God? Who are the people, God? I mean, like, what the fuck?
Okay, so if the morality comes from the world around you, then by your logic, if you lived in America in the 1800s where the age of 10 was okay, and where the age of 7 was okay in England just 200 years ago, if you follow the world around you, that would be okay.
No, well, see, now on the incest thing, like, okay, let's go back to ancient Egypt. In Egypt, it was perfectly normal for brothers and sisters to marry each other. Cleopatra was married to her younger brother, for God's sakes. Like, that was not seen as immoral in ancient Egypt. And so if we go by that logic, by what Moist Critical is saying here, then it was perfectly acceptable in ancient Egypt. Now, to be fair, the Egyptians at least had some kind of argument that existed independent of just pulling it out of their ass. And the logic was, well, the gods commit incest, because if you look at like a lot of the ancient pantheons, not just the Egyptians, but also like the Greeks and stuff, the gods were committing incest up the wazoo. So it was like, well, if the gods commit incest, it's okay for us to commit incest. So, but again, like that would also like go back to like a SNEAKO's logic of bringing in his religion, his culture, and his faith, which again is not a very good argument either. That's where he's fucking up. But no, you have to have something that exists independent of all that. And again, like obviously the biological effects of, and see, so here's the thing about incest. If you have a brother and a sister and they hook up and they make a baby and everything, the chances of that baby having a biological defect, it is higher than somebody that's unrelated, but it's not as high as you think. Like some people think like, oh, if a brother and a sister hook up, the baby's going to come out with 3 eyes and a club foot and all this. That's not how incest works. That's not how inbreeding works. The problem is when you have multiple generations of incest, multiple generations of inbreeding. And that was a problem because of who? The fucking royalty. Look at the fucking Hashburgers, or yeah, is that the name? The Habsburgs, Hashburgers, the Habsburgs. Look at the Habsburgs. They had different genetic defects due to inbreeding, but it wasn't because of one generation of inbreeding. It's because they kept doing the shit over and over and over and over and over. So the reason why inbreeding is discouraged is because we kept doing the shit over and over and over and over and over. Because let's say you have like 2 cousins that hook up, all right? The chances of them producing an offspring with a genetic defect or some kind of biological issue, it's honestly not that much higher than 2 people that are unrelated. It's only like a 2% increase of something going wrong. But the problem is when you have these royal families and they keep marrying their cousins, well, eventually as the generations go on, you're going to end up with a generation to where the cousins are less genetically cousins and they're more like fucking half siblings. And that's where the problems come in. So that's a scientific argument against incest. That's the biological argument. But let's just say like they couldn't have kids. There has been psychological studies done on this stuff. Incest psychologically fucks people up. So even if it wasn't for the biological aspect, the biological negativities, there's psychological negativities. But again, Moist has not studied the issue enough to where he can fall back on that. Like that would be a great counter argument to what SNEAKO is saying, but he's not studied the issue enough to be able to fall back on that logic, to be able to fall back on that reasoning, and to use that as a counter argument. And it's very fucking frustrating because again, this is not how you do a fucking debate.
That was fine.
And it's not now because we've evolved past then. Like
Right.
we are significantly further along to recognize this was a bad thing. People evolve. Like people
Again, he's not answering the why. Why is it a bad thing?
like here we'll go even stupider with this.
So your morality,
Like,
your morality is ever changing. It changes with
yes,
people.
Morality is changing. Like you are not born and then stay the same the entire time. As you take in more information, as you grow, so does your understanding of the world. That's how it
so
should
let's see where this
Opinions
goes.
change,
Let's see what
perspectives change.
Okay, let's say we continue this, and morality is ever changing. And then you, Moist Critical, you're living in America, and now everyone around you now believes incest is okay, as long as you don't have a child that's going to come out deformed. You have.
Then I would disagree with it.
So your morality does not come from those around you. It comes from somewhere. If your morality comes from around you, you would agree with everybody that's there. You would agree with the government. You would agree with the law of the land. Where would you get?
Everyone has their own individuality.
Individuality has nothing to do with morals. Your personal,
It does, because your morals are formed from your personal experiences and from what you take in around you from the people around you.
Okay, so but if you take it in from the people around you, then incest would be okay if everybody was doing it.
If you personally didn't agree with it, it wouldn't be. Like if you want, like,
so think about what he just said. You have 8 billion people living on Earth. What Charlie is arguing for is a world where you have 8 billion different views of morality. Bro, do you know how fucking chaotic the world would be if everybody just fought each other because they had their own separate views of morality? Like, you think it's bad now? That's a fucking retarded argument. That is a fucking retarded argument. It's wrong because I say it's wrong. Who the fuck cares what you say? Who the fuck cares what I say? If JeskerJames gets up here and says, "Hey guys, I don't think brothers and I don't think blood related brothers and sisters should fuck each other because I think it's wrong." And why do you think it's wrong? I mean, it sounds stupid when you say it like that. No, you get up here and you say, "Guys, I don't think that blood-related brothers and sisters should be fucking each other because if you look at the biological negative effects on the child, in the long run, it causes biological defects with the offspring. And if the inbreeding is repeated over multiple generations, you end up with severe medical defects such as hemophilia." And you end up with, mental issues like more aggressive behavior tendencies and things like, you can have physical defects to the body. Also, even if the siblings are not able to conceive a child, there are still psychological studies that I can present to you that shows the mental damage that it does to people involved in incestuous relationships. And those are the reasons as to why I've come to this conclusion. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's going beyond the fucking shallow, the fucking skin deep bullshit. Like, you need to dig in deep. You need to go balls deep, not into your sister, but into the fucking facts and the evidence. What was the point of this debate? Actually, I don't even know what was the setup for this debate. I just fucking saw it, and I heard people talking about it, and I'm subscribed to MOISTCRITIKAL, and I was like, you know what, let me check this out. And as I saw some snippets from it, I was like, you know what? This is kind of fucking interesting. Like, I kind of want to talk about this and give my input on this shit, so fuck it. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. It's my channel, motherfucker. That's what we're doing.
I don't know why you're doing the argument a little incorrectly, but I know.
Also, I just find it fucking frustrating that, like, there's so many easy ways for making money with views. Well, not even, because I have get me to 1,000 subscribers, motherfucker. Like, I need 1,000 subs before I make money off of views. Right now, I can just make money off of super chats and memberships. I have to get 1,000 subscribers before I can make money off of views. But no, because on the one hand, like, I'm actually fascinated by the topics that they're bringing up, and even more so than the topics, it's just the way that both sides are arguing things. Because, like, Charlie, like, fucking is frustrating the hell out of me right now, because he's just showing that he's not a very good debater, and he's not really thought a lot about these issues and these topics beyond the most shallow talking points that everybody brings up. And that's just fucking frustrating, because he's creating all sorts of logical fallacies, circular logic, and it's just, I'm frustrated, but it's like I'm frustrated in an entertaining way. I don't know. Maybe I'm sick. I don't know. I'm kind of a fucked up dude in that regards. And then SNEAKO, like, I don't agree with a lot of his arguments here, but he's making more sense. Like, he's got more logic. I don't agree with the arguments, but I can see where he is deriving. I can see the logic, the train of thought, the reasoning and the logic and the evidence that he's bringing to where he is deriving these arguments. So it's kind of interesting because I like Moist Critical more than SNEAKO, but SNEAKO's making more sense than Moist Critical, even though I don't agree with SNEAKO. So I don't know, like, it's just a very interesting dynamic. And I find it fucking fascinating to watch this. I really do.
Where you're trying to go. But the point is, like, the fact of the matter is, people will always have their own perspectives on things, unless, of course, you just follow what you are told 100% of the time. Like, for you, you're pushing back against the age of consent because you don't like being told that this is what it is based on this. You believe that, well, actually, there's a couple other extenuating circumstances in these cases.
That's not what I believe in. My belief comes from something that's consistent.
But again, like, you can't just come up with opinions and not have some kind of logic or reasoning backing those opinions if you want those opinions to be taken seriously. Like, again, I don't agree with what SNEAKO is saying, but because he does have some strand of logic and reasoning that he is deriving his arguments from, I am willing to hear him out, and I am willing to respect him for that. You get what I'm saying? Because he's being intellectually honest. And you can tell that he's actually thought about this shit. Whereas Moist Critical clearly has not. SNEAKO is definitely has a groomer logic. Yeah, he makes sense, but he uses his logic for disgusting shit. Again, I don't agree with what he's saying, but at least he does have some sense of logic and reasoning behind it, which I see absolutely none of that from Moist Critical. And that's what makes it so fucking frustrating. Because SNEAKO in this case is the better debater. Even though I think he's wrong, he's the better debater, obviously. SNEAKO would never go anywhere in a real debate with a professional. They will see where he wants to lead society. Like, again, like that's what I'm saying. Like, if Moist Critical had actually studied these topics and actually gone into depth with research into these topics and then brought that research into the debate, he could easily beat SNEAKO in this debate. But because he's not thought about any of this shit beyond the most surface level, SNEAKO is running circles around him. Like, Charlie should be winning the debate. But because he's not, I guess you could say he's not adept at the art of debating and what it takes to debate, he is fucking up big time. And he's making SNEAKO look good, even though he really shouldn't.
It comes from the Islamic way. It comes from the Islamic way because nothing else makes sense.
Okay, stop bringing Islam into the argument. Again, I am a Christian, but when I talk about this shit, I'm not bringing Christianity into the debate. Stop bringing it. And like he just said, it comes from Islam because nothing else makes sense. Dude, you are letting your faith blind you. You're letting your faith blind you. I'm sorry, but you cannot bring that shit into the debate.
The Western way is always adapting, and now we allow people to change their gender, something that was admonishable only 10 years ago. See, you're following the ever-changing morality. Only 10 years ago, a man becoming a woman was a mental illness. It was something that was shamed upon. 10 years ago, if Chris Tyson was going on a Mr. Beast video and he was there dressed up like a girl, and he was saying that I'm taking puberty blockers, hormone blockers, everybody would admonish him. In a lot of places, he would be excommunicated. He would say, absolutely, I do not want kids to take hormone blockers and change themselves forever. But today, that's allowed. Today, that's pushed. Today, that's okay. And then everybody else kind of falls into suit. There are a small minority of people in the West, people that believe in God. They say that this is absolutely wrong, and then they get banned for it. You can't follow the people that are around you, the ever-changing morality.
You can't follow a line of questioning. You keep going off onto these tangents. Look, at the end of the day, man,
it's not a tangent.
You can believe whatever you want to believe, but the point is, people are always going.
No. You cannot believe just whatever you want to believe. You cannot.
You are doing.
If you believe bestiality is wrong, you should not be in society. If you believe incest is okay, you should not be within the community. You should be excommunicated. These are things that there's some certain morality that should supersede the government. That should supersede something. The government should not.
The age of consent for you?
It's not the age of consent.
Now, see, again, SNEAKO is bringing up a very interesting point here because this reminds me of Abraham Lincoln. So when Abraham Lincoln was arguing that slavery should be abolished, one of the things he brought up is that, yes, the United States law says that slavery is A-OK, but that doesn't mean that the law is correct. And Abraham Lincoln's logic behind it is that there are certain laws that are higher than the United States. In other words, there are intrinsic objective morality or objective moral laws that are intrinsic in nature, that are just as objectively true in nature as the laws of physics. And that was Abraham Lincoln's reasoning for wanting to abolish slavery, is because there was a higher law that he was capitulating to above the United States law. Now, the thing is, though, is that higher law has logic and reasoning behind it. Because the idea, I mean, obviously it's fucking stupid to discriminate against people because of their fucking skin color. It's absolutely illogical. It's fucking illogical, and it doesn't make any sense. Scientifically, there is no difference from a mental and capability standpoint of a white man compared to a black man, or a black man compared to a Latino man, or a Latino man compared to an Asian man. They are all human. The skin color is literally skin deep. It doesn't change the fact that you are fundamentally human. Now, yes, there are certain genetic diseases and stuff that you are more prone to depending on what your race is. Like white people are more prone to certain genetic diseases. Black people are more prone to other kinds of genetic diseases. But that has nothing to do with your capabilities as a person. It has nothing to do with your mental self, your spiritual self. It has nothing to do with that shit. It does not take away from your humanity. So there is an objective morality and objective moral law in nature. And just like with physical laws, we have to discover those things. You see, like, we didn't understand gravity until Isaac Newton discovered gravity. But that doesn't mean that gravity did not exist before Isaac Newton discovered it. It still objectively exists. I believe like Abraham Lincoln and like Martin Luther King, I believe that there are inherent moral laws in the universe, inherent moral laws in nature, and we don't always know what those are, but we discover them as we progress as a society. And once we discover them, then we have to apply them to our lives and to our society. And that's what Abraham Lincoln was getting at. That's what Martin Luther King was getting at. That's what a lot of the great leaders that have changed the world for the better, that's what they were trying to get at. And I think that's true. And that has nothing to do with any one religion. That transcends the concept of religious establishments. Anyways, let's continue.
You should stay on topic here, because what you are doing is you are deflecting to other topics. You have still not directly said that you think it is a bad thing for an adult to marry a child. Like, you are still unable to say that. Now,
but you haven't even defined child.
I have. My definition is anything under 18.
That's exactly what a child is.
Yeah, I think that is a great line in the sand. If you are under 18, you are a child.
It's not a great line in the sand. But that's not even the definition.
Again, why? Like this. Like, I'm gonna keep bringing this up because Charlie never brings up the why. He never says the why. He just says the what, but not the why. The why is fucking important because the why defines the what.
Definition of child. You're going off of your own definition.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Like, who cares? Yes, why? If 18 is the established point, you are out of high school going to college. If that is...
Why was it established? Why was it established? Did people just wake up one morning and said, oh, people should be considered adults when they're 18? Why, though? Why was that established?
Is the point where everyone has agreed you're an adult past this point. Why argue?
Why did everyone agree
against it?
Why argue? Because if the government decides to push the age of high school, if they try to lower it, if they said that you can vote at a different age, then your morality changes based off of the law. And I'm saying that you need to have a consistent morality that does not change with the government and that does not change with the people that live in your country. It has to supersede that. You can't just say because of high school, because of college, this is...
Again, that's going off like Abraham Lincoln's logic, because you got to remember, like, most people during the time of Abraham Lincoln, most people didn't give a shit about slavery. The vast majority of Americans did not give a shit about the slaves. So if Abraham Lincoln had just based his morality off of what the people wanted and the people believed, he wouldn't have tried to abolish slavery. So there's times when you do have to just say, you know what? Fuck the people. I mean, there is times like you have to do that. And thank God that there's some people that are brave enough to do that. It's one of the reasons why Abraham Lincoln's like one of my top 5 presidents.
The set in stone age forever.
Okay, set it. I want you, SNEAKO, to set an age in stone right now for the age of consent, age of marriage. What is that to you?
I told you that there is no age of marriage. It has to be
Now,
based
do you
off
see why that's a
maturity,
problem?
and it has to be based off of whether it's going to be harmful, and it has to be based off the consent of the parents. It has to
Who
be
decides
healthy.
that?
If I want to marry a girl, I have to first ask her father. I have to ask her brother.
And the father's perfect. The father knows what.
Again, he's bringing the Islamic stuff into it. The brother and the father have nothing to do with this. That doesn't fucking matter. That doesn't fucking matter. He is right about the maturity point, but the problem is that he's conflating mental maturity with physical maturity, and those two things do not necessarily go hand in hand. So it's a conflation that has no logic.
What's best for the child at all
And I have to
times,
ask her
every father
mother,
knows.
and the daughter has to consent. If all 3 parties are consenting, and then my family's consenting, that's fine. That's what a
And
marriage should
it's
be based upon.
okay.
Why though? And don't just say, well, that's because that's what Islam says. That doesn't matter. You have to have something outside of Islam. Again, we're supposed to be a post-enlightenment society. We don't just do things based off of religion. You have to have a reason. You have to do it based off of reason and logic. So don't just say, well, that's because what Islam says. I don't care what Islam says. I don't care what Christianity says. I care what reason and logic says.
All that happens, and it's a 14-year-old. Now what?
If the 14-year-old is mature and I'm 16, say I went through puberty as
You're
well,
not 16,
and
you're
I'm
in your
17
20s.
or I'm 18. See, the problem with this is that you have a specific idea of where the age is. But if I'm 17 and I'm mature, and I meet a 14, a 15-year-old, and I'm okay, I'm mature, my family's okay, I asked her daughter,
You're
I
not
asked the
17,
daughter's
you are in your
father for the
20s.
hand of marriage.
You're in your 20s.
I went on
Does
this
it
already.
change?
I went on this already.
Does it change?
Your scenario earlier was if a 16 and a 21-year-old, if both parties were consent, if the father was okay with it, the mother was okay with it, why not? Give me a reason why tell me a reason why that's wrong. Because you're
What if a
getting.
child-
I mean, I can give you the reason why it's wrong. It's because science says that that girl is mentally not mature enough to be able to make a decision like that. She is mentally not mature enough to make a decision like that, and that is a fact of her biological standing. Yes, her body is physically mature, but her mind is not.
Child 1 is not a child. That's the point. So the 14-year-old, all those criteria we just checked. You're in your 20s.
The definition that we just agreed upon, that's not true. Child is somebody that is not physically mature yet. It has nothing to do with
That's
18.
not what we agreed upon. We agreed upon 18.
You agreed.
Most of the
We didn't agree with that.
Agreed at 18.
That's not true. That's not true across the whole
Oh,
world.
sensible people, even your own community has agreed upon 18 for the most part. So I've seen a lot of the tweets when you go on these tangents. Most people say it should be 18, and SNEAKO's arguing that parts of the world are different, so it gets muddy. But the agreed upon for the majority of people is 18.
That's not true.
So
That's just not true across the world.
So you see when you argue against that, why it looks so weird. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand because people have been brainwashed with this. Let me ask you this.
Okay, yeah, like he is right in the sense that you shouldn't base your morality just what everybody else says, because the majority, again, I'll use the slavery example. The majority of people in the United States during the 1860s, when the Civil War was happening, the majority of people, even in the North, even in the Union, did not give a shit about the slaves. That doesn't mean that slavery was not wrong. Slavery was still wrong, even though most people didn't give a shit about the slaves. Period. End of story. So he's got a point there.
People in Europe.
Brainwashing is concerning.
Okay, are people? So the majority of Europe is 16. Is everybody in Europe who abides by that? Who abides by the law? Are they pedophiles?
Yeah, in my
They
eyes,
are?
100%. And
Okay.
in European society, too.
Fine.
If you have someone in their 20s that is fucking and marrying a 16-year-old, they, too, are excommunicated.
No,
from
not excommunicated. Are they
society, even though it's technically
pedophiles?
legal. Yeah, I would say yes.
Pedophile. Okay,
Absolutely.
so the majority of people that follow the law in Europe are pedophiles according to MOISTCRITIKAL.
If
Yes
they
or-
are,
it's a yes or
if they
no?
are an adult fucking an under 18-year-old, even if it's 16 legally, I would say yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. In America, the majority of the states, it's 16.
And again, why? He's not giving us the why.
Are those people who follow the law of the land, are they pedophiles for following the... So the majority...
Keep saying the law of the land.
That's what it is. The majority
It's
of
not.
states, it's 16.
So if I want you right now, SNEAKO, if you go to any of those states where it's 16 and you fuck a 16-year-old, it's statutory rape. It is still statutory rape. It doesn't apply.
No, wait a minute. Hold up. No, that's not. No. If the law says that she's an adult at 16, no, it's not. If that's what the law says, no, it's not. The law can't say one thing and then you do stuff within the bounds of that law and then say, well, you broke the law. No, we fucking didn't. Now, I may not agree with the law, but that doesn't mean that he's in legal jeopardy, nor should he be. Now, maybe from a cultural standpoint, people will look at him like that. From a cultural standpoint, from the court of public opinion, he'll be condemned. But that's different than saying he's legally condemned. Again, Charlie is conflating two things together that are not they're not the same thing. I would have no problem if they add a disclaimer saying it's entertainment. People are assuming entertainment and education is the same thing. It's not. Well, I mean, yes, they are doing this for entertainment. Everybody that does a YouTube video or a stream is doing it for entertainment. But I also think like they are legit having a legit debate. Like I really think they are debating this. It's just the problem is, especially with Moist, he's not equipped to do this type of debating. He's not equipped for this.
Why? That's not what that
Romeo.
That's
Okay,
not how that works.
we went in circles. The Romeo and Juliet laws don't apply for most people, and even without that, even without the Romeo and Juliet laws, if it was 16 and all the countries that are 16, are those people pedophiles?
As I just said, yes.
Okay.
In those countries too.
Okay.
These.
So, but do you realize what you're saying? What you were saying.
In those countries,
most people who follow. Yeah. What you're saying, based off this logic, most people in the world are pedophiles if they follow the law.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
If the law is under 18, I would say yes.
Okay. So, but that's not the law because most of the world, as we established, most of the world is not 18. So you're saying if the majority of the world follows the law and they exercise their rights, they do exactly what they're good citizens, and they follow the law where it's 16, you are saying the majority of the world contains pedophiles. Even if they don't even act upon it, even if they agree that, okay, one day, maybe I could, out of wedlock, I could fuck a 16-year-old.
Because those
just the thought.
But yes, if there is an adult, as I've said many times, if there is an adult, and I'm defining an adult as someone who is...
We know.
We'll go deeper. We'll make it even simpler. Your age. If there's someone that is your age, and they are fucking a 16-year-old...
Why my age now? I thought it was 18. I thought it was 18.
I just gave a number because you were...
But you gave a number earlier.
18.
Statutory is based on power dynamic, hence the name statutory, because somebody can use his stature, of course. I get the argument, but I don't know if legally that would hold up in court. Because if the age of consent is 16, I mean, the government cannot defy its own laws. That would be a ridiculous standard. So I understand where you're coming from in terms of the logic, but and don't get me wrong, I agree with you, but I don't think that would hold up in a court of law. I don't think that would hold up in any sort of legal standing.
You said 18.
18. Yeah, I was just trying to make it easier. 18. If there is an adult that is fucking a 16-year-old, even in a country where it says 16 is okay, then yes, absolutely. Now, in the case of the 18, 16-year-old, that's where Romeo and Juliet kicks in. But if it is someone in their 20s, in their 30s, fucking a 16-year-old, that is literally statutory rape in pretty much everywhere in the world.
Right. Based off your logic, you realize this, that if a 19-year-old has sex with a 17-year-old, they should go to jail. They're pedophiles.
That is Romeo and Juliet, unless it's an 18, then yeah, wait till they're 18.
Okay, but a lot of states don't even have Romeo and Juliet. In Europe, they don't have that. The places, your Romeo and Juliet is an American thing. And in Europe, a lot of these places, if a 19-year-old has sex with a 17-year-old, your logic, they should go to jail. Is that true?
Yeah, I think it is absolutely going to be one of those things where there's an agreed upon age. If it's 18, it's 18.
So yes,
follow it.
a 19-year-old in a relationship with a 17-year-old should go to jail.
Well, no, okay. I guess, like I said, it will all depend on where that is located. So to give an example, Call Me Carson and that, I think it was a 17-year-old, I think he was 19 and 17. Like, that could be a high school relationship. And I don't remember where that took place, but the big problem there is apparently he was getting nudes. That's child porn. Like, that's a huge issue. 19 and 17, that's only a 2-year age gap. So that is applicable under things like Romeo and Juliet. So even if it is under 18 in the place you come from, that's an extenuating circumstance. But that's not what we're talking about. You keep bringing it back down to reasonable places. But what you argue for is things like when you legally control...
Let's see, a relationship that I had once was 19 and 16. People called me this and that, but the law said otherwise. Again, because people are fucking stupid, man. So this is one of the problems that Charlie doesn't understand. Charlie is saying, well, this is what everybody's agreed upon, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but see, like, what you don't understand is that people are not rational creatures. Like, this has been proven over and over again. People do not always think rationally, and they do not always make rational decisions. So this is why we have a legal system. This is why we don't just have the mob go out and hang people in the middle of the town square. This is why we don't have mob rule. This is why we have a legal system. Brad, you did nothing wrong, regardless of what the people say. All right? Legally, you're in good standing, and I'm assuming that you had a relationship with this person going back some time before you were 19. So, again, that is what Romeo and Juliet laws are there to cover, because they fucking know. Like, if you're in that gray area, if you're in that narrow situation, it's fucking ridiculous to expect you. I mean, again, if you're in high school with somebody and you're dating and there's like a couple of years age difference, what are you supposed to do? Just break up with them and wait 2 years? Do you know how fucking stupid that sounds? It's morally wrong, yes, but not legally. I haven't dated since then, though. I see, but that's the thing. I don't necessarily think it was morally wrong, because the reason that the law was created to cover that is because it is considered to be a morally gray area. Because you can have a relationship with somebody in high school, be slightly older than them, and then it's like, I mean, what did you do wrong necessarily? You had a high school sweetheart? I mean, what the fuck? People are stalking me online about it a long time later. Fuck people. Along with things I may have said on a game 2 years ago. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know what you said, but again, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I don't see an issue.
You can legally get.
I don't see an issue with that situation. But then again, I don't know all the details either. So let me just clarify that. But as from what I know, I don't see an issue with that situation.
Married and have sex.
Yes, when you are physically mature, when you're ready to drive a car, you should be able to. There's a lot of people that have jobs that need to do things. So a lot of people aren't ready to drive cars. They're not physically, they're not mentally mature yet to drive a car. They shouldn't drive a car at 16. It should be based off maturity. The same thing has to do with sex. The reason I keep saying this is because you have these set in stone numbers. And if you were to lay the laws of the land, if we follow your laws, if we follow your criteria, a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, he's consenting, she's consenting, the parents are happy, they're happy, they want to get married, they're ready to go, you're putting them in jail. That doesn't make any sense. Because of this, because
Juliet kicks in. Like, I don't know what's hard to understand about that. Places where that doesn't exist, I guess I'm not too familiar with how those.
A lot of places they don't. A lot of places they don't. And this is why it's arbitrary. So and based off your standards, when is the Romeo and Juliet? How long can that extend?
Those are teenagers. A 17 and a 19-year-old, those are both teenagers.
Okay, now they're teenagers, but you just said 18 was an adult.
Yes, they are.
You see how the definitions keep changing? They keep changing.
Without a doubt, SNEAKO is a better debater. Even if, and I don't agree with them, but he's definitely a better debater, because he is getting Charlie locked. He's backing Charlie into these logical corners to where Charlie is getting stuck, and he's not able to argue himself out of that corner. And it's a masterful debate tactic. I mean, it's actually a really masterful debate tactic. Again, I don't agree with SNEAKO, but I'm really impressed by how he's just debating circles around Charlie.
So far in this conversation, you changed it so many times. You said 18's an adult. No, you said, but listen, because you did. I heard you double up a couple times.
I know what you're going to harp on here.
No, you did. You said 18's an adult, and then you said adults like you, because you think 25's an adult now. Because that's when you're. Why? So why is? Let me ask you this. Why is it not 20? Why is it not 25?
It's because that's not what was established. Like,
no, I'm asking you because you believe.
Again, Charlie. Why was 18 established? What was the logic? What was the reasoning behind it? You are giving us the what. You never give us the why. Where is the why? I mean, like, I'm actually starting to get fucking pissed at this point. Give us the fucking why.
I believe in personal beliefs. I believe in some. My morality comes from the Quran. You believe in personal beliefs. Why is it not 25? 25 is when the frontal cortex is fully developed. That's when you're done maturing.
I couldn't tell you why it's not 25. I have no clue. I don't know why the drinking age is 21. I don't know. But they are agreed upon.
Okay, you don't know. So you are admitting that you are just you're just basing this shit off of things that you've heard, off of what society says, and you've never given it any kind of critical thought yourself. Charlie, that is intellectually dishonest. That is intellectually dishonest. This is what I'm talking about. You were not prepared for this debate in any shape or form. You came into this thinking, well, everybody's agreed that it's 18, so that's going to shut him down because surely he'll want to go along with what everybody else says. That's not. If you're intellectually honest, you don't give a shit what the majority of people say. If the majority of people are wrong, fuck them. You have to be intellectually honest. I don't know how you fucking live with yourself if you're not intellectually honest. I really don't.
Rules.
They're agreed upon rules, just like the drinking age, just like the voting age. They're agreed upon rules, and a lot of them don't make any sense. Why is drinking 21?
18, but I do think 18 does. There is a good reason for it. You are out of high school. You are going to live on your own. You're going to college. I think that is a good reason.
Yeah, maybe in the 1980s, but nowadays people don't leave the house until 24, 25, until they're my age.
Bingo. See, what Charlie's bringing up is a societal condition. And societal conditions have no sense of permanency. They change depending on the culture, on the civilization, and on the era in which you're born. Now, what I'm talking about with the whole brain thing, that has a level of permanency. That is true regardless of where you are in the world, regardless of what time period you're born with, simply for the fact that you are human and that's how human brains develop. That is objectively true. That is why that reasoning has a stronger foundation to stand on compared to just, well, this is what our culture does. Like, okay, but culture is so impermanent that it's a foundation, but it's a very shaky foundation. It's like building a house on sand.
A lot of people don't. People are not financially ready. People are still immature. There's 18-year-olds I know that are more mature than people my age, and there's 25-year-olds that are more immature than 18-year-olds. It's arbitrary now. It depends on personal experience. It depends on individual maturity.
But there needs to be something defined. In your rule here...
And I'm saying there is something defined. I'm saying there is.
A 14-year-old, in your definition, could literally marry an adult. That's a problem. In your world, a 14-year-old can marry an adult.
Yeah, in my world, two 14-year-olds can be adults. I'm telling you,
I don't see why that's weird.
Two 14-year-olds, you don't think that two 14-year-olds can be married?
No, absolutely not.
No?
Under no circumstances do I think two 14-year-olds can marry.
Can two 16-year-olds
let alone a 14 and a 20-year-old or whatever.
Okay, can two 16-year-olds be married?
No, I don't think
why is it wrong if so a 16-year-old, because the age of consent is across the world, so many places 16, if they can go have frivolous sex with a lot of people, if they can go fuck around, if they can do deviant things, if they can change their gender, why can they not get married? Sex change, like Chris from Mr. Beast, these people can take hormone blockers. You're not listening. This is the point. You can take hormone blockers, you can take puberty blockers, okay, when you're a child. When you're 16, you can go change your gender, but you can't get married? Why is that?
That's I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty obvious question.
No, it's not. It's not. See, if you cut your penis off, like Chris from Mr. Beast, if you cut your penis off, that is a life-altering decision. You can't glue it back on. You can get divorced if you get married. This is a commitment that you're taking. A child, based off the liberal point of view that you believe in, they can have gender surgery. They can change forever. He lagged out. One sec. Can have, okay, do you believe that somebody can go through hormone therapy? Can they change their gender if they're a child?
I think that's totally fine as long as everyone is consenting, as you agree with.
Okay.
Oh my God, this makes no fucking sense. So you can go through something, so you can't consent to something that is not necessarily permanent, such as marriage, but you can consent to something that is permanent, such as a sexual transitioning. That makes no logical sense, Charlie. That is completely illogical. What the fuck? It makes no sense.
Okay, so as long as everyone,
if your parents are okay with it and you are okay with it, I think that's totally a family decision to make. Yeah.
Okay, so
bro, these kids can't even decide if they want chicken nuggets or a cheeseburger in their Happy Meal. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are we talking about?
Oh, A child can cut their penis off and take hormone blockers and change their biology forever, but they can't get married?
Oh, that's a decision that now extends beyond the family, because now you're bringing in a different party. So if you have someone that's your age coming in saying, I want to marry that child, I don't think that can happen under any circumstance.
So,
no.
But it's still a personal decision. You're still deciding.
Because there's
take the other party out of the equation. It's a personal
decision.
decision. If I'm 16 and I personally want to marry this girl, she's beautiful. She's 21 years old. Her family wants to do it. My family wants to do it. You're saying I can't do that. We're both consenting. I'm ready to go. I'm physically mature, but I'm not allowed to marry because Moy says that woman's a pedophile. But if then the next day I leave it, I'm depressed, I want to cut my penis off, I can go right into the clinic, snip it off, and start taking HRT like Chris Tyson. That's a society that makes sense to you?
It is. I believe everyone has I believe everyone has the right to do with their body what they want to do.
Okay, 100%. So everyone has the
that's fucking insane, dude. So they're not mature enough to decide if they want to get married, but they are mature enough to go through a permanent surgery that is going to radically alter their body. You can just tell by the look on Charlie's face, by his body language, the way he's talking right here. He knows that he looks like a complete fucking fool right now. He knows that he does. He knows that he is just intellectually getting the shit beat out of him.
The right to do with their body, but not when it comes to a sacred marriage where they have kids, where they add to society.
No longer just you.
That is your body.
Bringing someone in.
Okay, you're still bringing in the doctor to use the scissors to snip off your penis.
He's not there for the rest of your life. He's not constantly there at your fucking house monitoring you.
You don't need to be there. You're not glued to your wife. You're not there like Siamese twins. You are
a 16-year-old. You are entirely reliant on this adult that you've now brought in.
No, you're not. You can tell parents, maybe I'm making my own money. I'm not relying. If I'm 16 and I marry a 21-year-old and I'm making a lot of money and I'm doing well and I'm independent, I'm not relying upon her. Not only that, the person that you just put through transgender therapy, now they need to go to therapy once a week. Now they need to go to the pharmacist once a week. Look how many people are involved now. Now they're going to therapy groups. Now they're online. They're making YouTube videos. They're in a Mr. Beast challenge. This person is relying on so many people, and they also have. You're cutting out again. You're cutting out. Chad, is it me or him?
Let's see. I'm not going to get into it now, but like I've heard some weird stories when it comes to all that stuff. I saw earlier Baki said that I don't know where the comment went. Baki said that both of them are like out of touch. They are. I mean, listen, both of them is yeah, right there. There's Baki's comment. Both SNEAKO and Moist are so out of touch. Yes, I agree. Listen, like this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't agree with SNEAKO's arguments. I definitely don't agree with Charlie's argument on this. But Charlie could have debated circles around SNEAKO if he just did some fucking research. If he just didn't look at everything on the surface level. But he's not. He's just, I don't know, man. Like, he's just a really bad debater. He's a really bad debater. It's fucking frustrating. Like, if I was debating with if I was in this debate, I could bring up counter arguments that Charlie's never even thought about because he's given no real thought to any of this. You can just tell he's never given any serious thought to any of these issues. No 16-year-old can make so much money unless he is really lucky or at some sort of inheritance. I mean, that's true. That's true. Most 16-year-olds are not making that kind of money. Hell, most young adults now are not making that kind of money because the economy is so fucked. Let's skip ahead to where they're both back on stream. There we go.
Making a decision about marriage, you're bringing someone else in that is now not just you.
Just because you're bringing someone else in does not change the fact that it's a personal decision. Marriage is it's consent. It is deciding yes, regardless of the other person. But it's still a personal decision.
Can't possibly wrap their head around this adult that has been preying on them. Like, I don't know why you can't see that. A 16-year-old can't be making this decision on this adult who is convincing them that I am the right choice for you for life.
Right. But a 9-year-old boy can go into a clinic and decide that that 40-year-old doctor, can cut my penis off.
If that's a decision he and his family wants to make, it doesn't bother me.
That's fucking insane, dude. Do you know how much when it comes to issues of gender dysphoria and gender identity issues, do you know how fucking complex those fucking issues are? And you think a 9-year-old is capable of comprehending that level of complexity? Are you fucking stupid? A 9-year-old cannot even a 9-year-old can't even decide if they want chicken nuggets or a cheeseburger in their fucking Happy Meal. That's fucking crazy. That you are totally overestimating the mental capabilities and comprehensions of a fucking 9-year-old, dude. What the fuck?
Okay. Okay. So then why is it that bringing someone else into that marriage, why does that then make it wrong?
Because it could be an adult with a child, which is that is an unacceptable dynamic under every possible circumstance.
In the doctor's office, in that gender therapy forever, it's still an adult and a child cutting off the penis, Moist.
You are not living with that fucking doctor. You have made a decision.
You're living with the decision of that doctor to cut the...
Moist, did you ever consider the fact that maybe the doctor and the parents are bad faith actors and they are influencing the child to do something that the child ordinarily would not do? Did that ever occur to you? Hello? This is fucking ridiculous.
Penis off. It's still living with the decision of another person too.
And that's life. You live with decisions. Some people might regret it, sure. But within this marriage with an adult, that is a decision that is...
Not when you're 9 fucking years old, Charlie. A 9-year-old is in no way capable of making any kind of complex decision of that magnitude. Period. End of story. Absolutely fucking not. That's insane.
Now, once they are in your life, it can be out of your hands. You can have this adult come in and just start beating the shit out of you. You can have all kinds of things. When you're with getting your penis cut off, you have made a decision.
Okay, wait, you're saying you can get beat up? You can still get beat up out of marriage.
You absolutely can. But a child is never going to be thinking about things like that because they can't. A child can't consent to marrying an adult.
A child can't consent to marrying an adult, but they can consent to changing their entire fucking biology. This is so fucking stupid, man.
So why is a child smart enough to decide that he's now a woman that needs puberty blockers and cutting his penis off, but he can't decide upon marrying somebody that he's in love with?
How does he know he's in love with them?
It's a feeling. It's something that you know.
How does he know that he was born the wrong gender, Charlie? God, this is retarded. Oh, this is so retarded. I actually feel like I'm getting dumber watching this. This is so fucking stupid.
Talk to your family. You decide. How does a
child
child
being in love with an adult?
Yes, I talk to
sensible family.
Yes, I'm 16. I meet a 21-year-old woman. I say, "Mom, Dad, I'm in love with this girl. I want to marry her. I feel like I'm in love. She's the right person for me. I want to do it." She's like, "Yes, yes, yes." Everyone's good. But a 9-year-old could say, "Mom, Dad, I want to cut my penis off," and you're gonna say that's good. But a 16-year-old who feels in love, who's ready to commit, who's financially independent, that person cannot get married.
A 16-year-old will never be financially independent. A and B.
Oh, you should see my whole team. Yes, you know how many? Do you know how many people that I work with that are financially ready?
You work with a lot of 16-year-olds?
Yes, I do.
Financially ready?
I work with the person who runs my Telegram. I have Clippers. I have a lot of teenagers who are making more than my professors. They are ready. They're mentally, these people are mature. They're boxing every single day. They are more mature than a lot of the 24-year-olds I know that I went to school with that are still in their hometown doing nothing, eating popcorn every day and cutting their dick off like...
Okay, you know what? Hold up. SNEAKO actually makes a really good point here. I'm assuming that SNEAKO is I don't know what country he's in, but I'm assuming it's not America. But if you look at 16-year-olds, if you look at young adults, teenagers in other countries like European countries, even in Middle Eastern countries, a lot of them are fucking more mature and more grown up than even a lot of fucking adults in the United States. Like, seriously, like we as a population are so fucking mentally and intellectually stunted, it's ridiculous. So I don't find that argument that hard to believe. Because see, over here, like, like when kids are asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? They'll say, I want to be a movie star. I want to be a fashion model. But if you go to Europe and you ask the same kids in the same age group, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a physicist. I want to be a dentist. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. There is a difference between kids outside of America and kids in America. Okay, so a 9-year-old don't come and say, I'm in the wrong body, cut my penis. There's a clinical evaluations about this. This is really bad faith and misrepresentations. I don't care. I look, I'm sorry, but I don't trust a 9-year-old to be able to make that decision. You have to remember, I was a 9-year-old at one point. I wouldn't have trusted my 9-year-old self to make that decision. Absolutely not. Now, if we're talking about when you're 25 and your brain has developed to where you have higher reasoning and higher judgment, I mean, at that point, fuck it. Do whatever you want. But at 9 years old, your brain is not developed enough to where you can make any kind of decision about like that. Period. End of story. I don't care what the 9-year-old says. All right. The 9-year-old does not get a fucking opinion on that. The 9-year-old is not a fucking adult. The 9-year-old does not get to say shit about that. There comes a point where you have to tell kids, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. We used to fucking understand that. That's called being a parent. Jesus Christ.
Like you believe. These people are ready to go because maturity changes for different people. For you to decide that a kid can cut his penis off but he can't get married makes absolutely no sense, and that's a society that crumbles. That's a society that allows them, that's your incest.
The society that flourishes is the one where a 14-year-old can marry someone in their 20s, SNEAKO. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Marriage is how society progresses because you need to create more life. Marriage, children should only be within a marriage. They should only be conceived within a marriage where they're not going around sleeping with different people, where they're not confused, where they're not a part of the community that has the highest suicide rate. They should not be a part of that. I want to be in a society full of happy married people that are ready to have children, that are God-fearing.
Those happy married people are sometimes in your world 14, 15, 16 years old.
Absolutely. If they are ready,
That's so
if they are ready to get married
to,
but see, you're so hung up on the fact that it could be an older person. Okay, if a 16-year-old is fine, what if a 16-year-old meets another 16-year-old in a place?
We've already gone over that.
Okay, if 16 in a place where the age of consent is 16, which is most of the country, right? Let's go off that. There's no Romeo and Juliet laws. Two 16-year-olds meet, they want to fuck. Can they do that?
In a place where the age of consent is 16, if it's two 16-year-olds, yeah, absolutely.
Can they get married?
That's never what we've been talking about.
Can they get married?
If it's legal for them to marry at 16, sure they can.
No, it's not.
That's
in America, you have to be 18 to get married.
Then wait. Then they should wait.
Okay,
yeah.
so they're both pedophiles?
What the fuck? No, there's no adult in that situation. They're both the same age.
The point that, see, this is where it goes back. The point I'm making is that you cannot follow the law. You cannot rely upon the government or these arbitrary numbers. The reason you believe in 18 is because you live in America right now where the age is 18. If you lived
you do too, though.
No, I don't.
You just said it. You wouldn't. So you don't believe it's 18. So you're gonna go fuck a 15-year-old?
This is not my personal preference, Moise. That has nothing to do with my personal preference.
Well, answer that question. You just said you don't. Are you gonna go fuck a 15-year-old in a place where you can?
That is not my. I don't want to have.
Just say yes or no. Just
no,
say yes or no.
I do not have sex out of wedlock. I've repeated this before. My point is,
you had plenty of sex out of wedlock. When you were sexually active, would you have gone and fucked a 15-year-old?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so then you two also still abide by
because
it.
we believe in abiding the laws of we don't break the law, but you're applying the law of the land to morality, and that's where things get confused because morality is not defined based off the government. If we followed morality, listen, if we followed morality defined based off the government, then we would say that the war that's happening in Israel and Palestine is justified because the government is sending billions of dollars there. You cannot rely on the government upon that because the government can be flawed. Morality does not come from these people that are elected. Morality comes from God. That's the only place that it can come from. Because if you were around, if you follow your logic, if you were around people, all of them that thought incest was okay, that thought bestiality was okay, you would follow it because you follow the people that are around. That's the only reason you believe 18, because that's what you see in Hollywood movies, because that's what the government told you as an adult, not because it's something a personal.
It is the agreed upon age. But
you keep saying that it's not even agreed. That's
so. This is fascinating because essentially what Charlie is saying is that the people are God. I mean, really think about it, and like I don't want to bring God too much into this. But what Charlie is arguing is that the supreme moral authority is, quote unquote, the people, whatever the fuck that means. Now, when you look at a history book and you see all the rape, the murder, the war, all the shit that all the horrible shit that we do as human beings, and you want to make our species, our race, the supreme moral authority, that's fucking terrifying. That is fucking terrifying. That's fucking crazy. Because you have to believe then that humans at their core are naturally good. And again, pick up a history book. That's not the fucking case. We do some horrible fucking shit. And most of the time, we will go out of our way to do bad shit compared to good shit. Because we have a natural inclination to evil. And you want to make our species that acts like that the supreme moral authority, that's fucking crazy. That is scary as fuck.
That's not never go down. That's not true. Well, it shouldn't go down. It's not even agreed upon. And nowhere.
It is though. Most people, if you right now, have you had sex with a 16-year-old as an adult, SNEAKO?
No, I have not.
Okay. If you did, how do you think people would respond to it, even in your own community? If you said that you had sex with a 16-year-old,
they would be completely disgusted.
Exactly, because most people agree at a certain level needs to be established, and that level is 18. So under no circumstances should a 14, 15, 16-year-old be getting married and having sex with an adult.
Okay, let's go.
So hold up here. I do want to point out, and this would absolutely destroy Moist's argument if I was actually debating him. But do you know which country is the largest consumer of CP? Do you know which country is the largest consumer of CP? It's the United States. So let me explain to you what that means. Let me explain to you exactly what that means. That means that you are reliant on a country full of people who are the largest consumer of CP to make laws in order to protect children from adults taking advantage of them, which is what CP is. And you're relying on that population to create laws and to create a moral structure and framework to protect children from the very acts that are taking place in CP, even though we are the largest consumer of CP. And you trust these motherfuckers to do that. Everything that Moist is saying is reliant on human beings being naturally good. And that's just not the fucking case. It is reliant on people, on the majority of people wanting to protect children, and on the majority of people not having, let's say, inappropriate thoughts, because I have to be careful about how I word stuff on YouTube, about children. And the statistics show that's probably not the fucking case. At least not in America. At least not in the United States. So, what do you say to that? How do you argue that? The statistics show that the entire foundation of your argument is a fucking lie.
Go to the Dr. Disrespect situation because there was a lot of hypocrisy, right? He would message a 17-year-old.
That's not true. Show me the evidence of him messaging a 17-year-old.
I haven't seen any evidence. See, all this.
Oh my God. He fucking admitted it. He put out the fucking tweet. He admitted that he did that. What the fuck?
Exactly. All the streamers within your community, they were so quick to admonish Dr. Disrespect without seeing any evidence at all. We saw Chris Tyson, and then they waited 3 days like you to post a video.
I did it within like 6 hours.
Okay. To be fair on the Chris Tyson situation, I've not done my research on it. I do plan on looking into it this week and doing a stream about it this week, but I have to look into it first. The doctor... God, man, I can't talk tonight. The Dr. Disrespect situation, I waited until more evidence came out before I said anything, and then he came out and admitted to it himself. And at that point, it was like, okay, well, he admits it, so here we go. What the fuck else am I supposed to do? So I don't want to hear this shit that everybody was so quick to come out, and it's like, no, I waited like 2 days until he actually came out and admitted it himself. Like, no.
No, you didn't. If you
I did.
Okay, if you
What
decided,
are you talking about? The full video came out less than 24 hours after the initial break of all of the information, and I had that first video go.
how long
within 6
How long did it
hours.
take for the Dr. Disrespect video to come out?
Over 24 hours.
Did it? How long did it take for you to tweet?
And in the first
How
video,
long did it
I
take for you to
mentioned
tweet,
multiple times
though?
how there's no concrete evidence of who he was talking to.
How long did it take for you to tweet?
I waited till his second response, so that was 3 days later.
It was 3 days. You didn't tweet right away?
Nope.
Okay, then you were the outlier, and most streamers, all of them, they waited. They didn't say anything. They wanted the Mr. Beast collab. That's besides the point. Most critical. If you DM'd a girl that was 17 years old, 364 days, should everybody be disgusted with you?
I think that would be pretty disgusting. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think you should be communicating with someone under 18, no matter what.
Okay,
If you want
but
to,
it's not. Is that disgusting?
yeah, I think it's disgusting.
You wait a day.
Like
Is it-
Cody Ko having sex with Hannah when she's 17, I think that's disgusting.
Okay, say she's 17 years old, 364 days. He waits one more day. Is he still disgusting?
I still think in that position, yeah, I think that's still a huge
But
power dynamic issue that
is
you're
it?
getting into with that one. But
Wait.
That,
That's disgusting. But I thought you said 18 was an adult.
well, yeah, it is. Like
It
you're
is?
not going to jail. But
See, oh my God. See, this is what is it about that one day? You're 17 years old, 365 days. What is it about that one day that does something magical happen on that one day that magically turns you into an adult? Does the fairy godmother come down from the heavens, taps you with her wand, and oh my God, you're an adult? Like, what the fuck happens on that? Because I'll tell you right now, when I turned 18, I did not feel any fucking different the day I turned 18 compared to the day before when I was 17. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's not based on any real logic or reasoning. God, this is
Okay,
still find
so
that
now it's
disgusting.
disgusting for two adults to have sex?
It's disgusting for someone to be using this kind of position in the example you're giving. That's a power dynamic issue.
But so Cody Ko waits one more day, then they have sex, and he's still disgusting, but it's two adults. Why is that disgusting?
People are still like, I would be upset hearing that. Cody Ko was in a different position than Tana at the time, and he was also in a much different place. And even if he waited till 18, while it's not illegal, it still wouldn't be a good thing. It's not something to celebrate.
Not celebrate, but you think it's disgusting. You think it's reprehensible.
I think it would be a bad thing for sure. Yeah, I don't think it would be a good thing.
Is he a pedophile?
No, he would not be a pedophile. And
Okay.
I also
Okay, he's not a pedophile. The day before, 17, 364 days. Is he a pedophile?
No, I think yes.
Yes?
Let's just use, we're going to use a green
Okay.
bond definition.
That's-
If you don't
yes.
wait till 18, you will we'll just do pedophile.
There you go.
People
So-
like to
so-
argue a beefophile or whatever it's called, but let's just say if you fuck someone under 18, you are
You are a
you are a
pedophile.
pedophile.
You're a pedophile.
Yeah.
So this is just like the word misogynistic. I get called a misogynistic all the time, right? I was just in France recently, and there was a girl literally massaging my head. She's 27 years old. She's massaging my hair standing on the street, and the soy boy comes up to me with earrings. He says, "I hate you. You're a misogynist." He says, "I hate you," and he doesn't know. And I ask him like, "What does misogynist mean?" He doesn't know. Right? The same reason that your definition of pedophile does not even follow the actual definition of the word is the same thing when people throw around the term misogynist and they don't know what it means. That's what happens when you get to throw
As I
around.
just said, I know it's not the definition of the word, but we're just using terms so we can all be on the same
Okay, but
page.
words have meanings for a reason. You can't just make up a definition of a
It's
word.
beefophile. If you have sex with someone under
I mean, again, he's right. You cannot just make up your own definitions. You cannot make up your own terms. Either it means what it says, either the definition for the word has meaning, or it does not. Make up your fucking mind. We have to have some kind of standard in order to be able to even have any debates or even to be able to make any kind of argument.
18, but over
But see, Charlie's whole idea is like, well, it's the masses, it's the people, whatever the fuck that means. They're the ones that ascribe meaning to these words and these definitions. No, they fucking don't. It's based on a long history and precedence as to what things mean. The word pedophile originates from ancient Greece. There are thousands of years of precedence that applies to that term, to that word. We didn't just all get together one day and make it the fuck up. I mean, good God, man.
12, you're in a beebophile or whatever it's called.
Okay, so he's not a pedophile anymore. You just change it. So now he's a beebophile?
Well, I'd still use just that word. It's bad. Yeah. If you are having sex with like a 16, 17-year-old.
I would use, let me tell you what he's saying. I would use that word because that's what people that expresses a certain meaning that everybody in the modern day understands. Even though that the common understanding of that word, its definition and its meaning may be misunderstood by the majority of people. But no. Because the majority of people have ascribed a meaning and a definition to that word, that automatically makes it whatever the majority have ascribed to it. So now the majority are the ultimate authority when it comes to defining stuff. That's fucking retarded. Definitions, words, meaning, morality is not a fucking democracy, Charlie. Not everything's a fucking democracy, dumbass.
It's bad pedophile behavior.
Okay, so it's not a bebophile anymore, it's a pedophile.
You're talking about terms. The correct term is a
I want to figure out, because
stupid.
Moise, we can't have a discussion if we don't define terms.
You were the one that immediately got mad that I used pedophile incorrectly to just do a blanket term for
Exactly.
under 18.
I didn't get mad, but I'm pointing out, if we define a term and then you change the definition of the term within the conversation, then the conversation
I'm not
makes
changing the term. You got upset because it's not the strict definition of pedophile. It is someone that hasn't gone through puberty. But we're using just this term to refer to anyone under 18.
Okay, so we're using words.
If you are going to have a debate, if you're going to have an intellectually honest debate, you have to use the term and the phrase in the strictest definition of what it means. You cannot use the term or the phrase in regards to what the majority of people or what a particular culture has subscribed to that word or phrase. That is not being intellectually honest, and that is not how you come into a fucking debate, Charlie.
It wasn't a textbook definition.
So we're using words, and we don't care about their meaning anymore.
You're doing the same thing.
No, I'm following. I'm not trying to do a gotcha. I'm following your line of logic. We're using
So
Cody Co's a pedophile. Based on your logic, Cody Co's a pedophile, even though he's not a pedophile.
We're using that term. Yeah, he had sex with a 17-year-old.
It's not. We're not just using.
See, again, like the fuck me, dude. I don't. Here's what it comes down to. Charlie cares more about what the modern understanding by the majority of people of a word or a phrase is. That's what matters to him. What matters to SNEAKO is the strict textbook definition of what words and phrases mean. And honestly, when it comes to debating, if we're being intellectually honest, I agree with SNEAKO's view on that. Because here's the thing, the majority of people can get the facts fucking wrong. That's why we don't judge people based on the court of public opinion. That's why we're a nation of laws, not a nation of people.
We're not using the term. It's either
statutory rape. It's statutory rape.
That's not what I'm not talking about. Statutory. I'm asking you, is he?
That's the legal term. It's statutory rape. Having sex with a 17-year-old after you're an adult.
So you changed the term again. It was first bebophile, now pedophile, now statutory rape. Which one? See, the reason that I'm having this discussion with you is you can't use arbitrary words that have no meaning to apply to somebody, because that's how you cancel somebody. That's how you just say things around, and that's how you get to shame somebody, ruin their reputation. And that's when words lose all meaning. And if we lose the meaning of words, then society makes no sense. Then nothing makes any sense. Then kids can cut their dicks off. You're not understanding what I'm saying. You need to have words. Need to have meanings, or else everything crumbles, or else the very fabric of society does not make sense if we're using words that don't have meaning.
We are. Age of consent has meaning. It's 18, and you are the one that's trying to redefine it.
You're going back.
But why does it have that meaning? Charlie, stop saying the what. We all know what the what is. We all know what the age of consent is. Explain why it's like that.
You just said that he's a pedophile, but he's not a pedophile. It's statutory rape.
And you're dodging what I'm saying.
But I'm not dodging. I'm not dodging. You're calling him a pedophile because it fits, but he's not, because it's a bad word, because it's morally bad. But he's not a pedophile because it's this day.
No,
the words you're using do not make sense.
You talk in circles.
I'm not talking in circles.
You wanted one term to encompass what I believe under 18, and since I used pedophile and it's not the textbook definition, I said that the textbook one would be a bebophile, or statutory rape is the charge of what it would be. It's a crime.
Okay. Do words need to have definitions?
Yes, and so does the age of consent.
Mm-hmm. When we use the English language, should the words that we use match the definition of the word?
Yes.
Yes? You're not doing that.
You don't want... Statutory rape, then. We won't use colloquialism.
There you go. So within this conversation, you changed. Cody Co is no longer a pedophile. He's a statutory rapist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is he a bebophile still, or just a statutory rapist?
Statutory rape.
Okay, so he's not a bebophile.
No, we won't use that term.
It's not we won't. You're saying we won't use because you're operating within a bubble of cancel culture.
No, it's not cancel culture. It's just, it's a 17... Do you think him fucking a 17-year-old's a big deal?
No, I don't. I think it's bad. I don't think you should have sex out of wedlock. I don't think that's something to be, I don't think that's like incredible. I don't think that's but do I think that like she was, I think she was physically mature. I don't think that she was like traumatized from it. I think she's clout chasing going on every single podcast. Do I think that he's a pedophile? No. She looked like she was mature. She looked like she definitely went through puberty. Definitely wasn't the first person she had sex with. And maybe it was in a state where the age was 16. So legally based off the definition, no. Morally based off the definition, no. It was in Florida. So isn't it, what is the age there? 17?
18.
You sure?
I'm almost positive.
See, you don't even know. So now you're trying to think, wait, is he a pedophile or not? It's either she's a child or she's not. These are very simple definitions that we need to follow. And if we follow, you're Googling it, if we follow your line of thinking, that's when things get crazy. That's when kids can cut their penises off. That's when I'm a woman right now.
Kids can marry at 14 and 15 in your ideal world.
You know what's so silly about the situation is when you talked about Chris Tyson, did you see the number one viral clip I saw? And I know you saw it. Did you see it?
Which one?
People were getting angry at you that you misgendered Chris Tyson.
I didn't misgender anybody though. I only referred to Ava by her name.
I heard that. I heard
misgendering.
I saw the clip that went viral. It was they.
Well, yeah, I used they, but I only used her name, and I used they when referring to most people in general. I say they a lot. And when I was at the Mr. Beast thing, Ava was referred to by they by one of the staff, so I just played it safe and said Ava, and I didn't want to offend anybody because I am not transphobic. Like I never have been. I don't have hate in my heart.
They're calling you transphobic.
I know.
The people that live within.
See, all right, you know what? I'm starting to understand the mentality of Charlie here. What he cares about is the majority opinion, or what he views as like the will of the people. So if people are going one way on something, he believes that that's the way that he should go. If they go another way on something, he believes that he should go that way. And it's because he doesn't believe in any kind of objective morality. Morality is defined by the human race. Morality is defined by the people. And again, look at a fucking history book. The reason why I don't agree with that is because people are fucking evil, dude. People always will do evil shit. The majority of people can be, I want you to really consider this for a second. How many times have the masses changed history? How many times have the masses improved society? It's never the masses. It's never the majority. It's always been some person that has led them. The masses that marched during the civil rights era would not have marched, would not have done what they did if they didn't have leaders like Martin Luther King. Slavery would not have been abolished if the country didn't have a leader like Abraham Lincoln. If your determination for what is right and wrong and what should be defined is the masses, is the people, you are building your entire moral, intellectual, and philosophical framework of your life on very shifty sand. It's not a good foundation, dude. And you are going to run into so many fucking issues, especially when you're debating somebody. You're going to run into so many fucking issues.
Your frame of thinking, the Western civilization mind, that hive mind, they're calling you a transphobe now for calling Chris pedophile Tyson a they. What do you think about that?
It hurts. I don't like to see it, but it is what it is. I should have looked into the preferred pronouns more. I just made an assumption that we'll just be safe and use Ava's name. Like, I didn't think to go beyond that. That
points out the problem, the flawed thinking of Western civilization, this liberal mind. When somebody gets exposed for messaging children and saying, like, this guy was exposed for liking lolly porn.
Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah, Dr. Disrespect, that's the same thing. What he did was wrong. Both are wrong.
You defended him, though.
No, I didn't.
Even in this conversation.
I never defended Dr. Disrespect, never. What did I say that defended him? What I said was I'm pointing out the flaw. Everybody's so quick to hate him, but then Chris Tyson comes along and all those people are silent.
No,
right?
Even before.
No. I never defended him.
No,
I never defended. What he's doing is wrong. He's a married man. He shouldn't be doing that. I said that he should not be doing that, and what he did was wrong.
But you said that the 17-year-old thing is not a big deal at all.
But yeah, I don't. It's not. It's not.
But
it's bad. He should not. He should not do it. Does that make him a pedophile? No. My point is, Chris Tyson. What he did is absolutely wrong. Like what Dr. Disrespect is wrong. The point is, Chris Tyson gets exposed for messaging actual children, and the woke mob that you're controlled by, they get mad at you for misgendering instead of the fact that this guy is actually messaging children. This is the world that we live in now. You do a video condemning a pedophile, an actual pedophile, and instead of talking about that, they focus, and the clip that goes viral is Moist Critical misgenders Chris Tyson the pedophile. Insanity world. You can't follow the ever-changing morality of the West, because then this misgendering is going to be canceled. And on Twitch, you can't even misgender. You can't say there's two genders on Twitch on the platform you're on. That's the reason you're not streaming right now. This is the problem. You need to have consistent morality. I just wanted to
have a conversation with you again. That's all. I wasn't going to stream it or anything.
I know, but I'm saying this conversation. If you
well, you just said that's why I wasn't. But
well, if you had this conversation on Twitch, you would get in trouble. The point is, if the ever-changing rules of this Western thing where they keep adapting, love is love. First it's gays, then it's LGBT, then it's LGBTQIA, and then it's just accept them, and then it's cut their penises off, and then it's take hormones, and then it's kids can take hormones, and then it's kids can cut their dicks off, and then they're parading through the streets, and then they're waving their dicks out in the park in public.
We can do the same song and dance with your ideal world too. You're not setting anything defined. Your age of maturity is not a number. You haven't put a number on it. That leads to the same thing. Well, all of a sudden, it's okay for a 14-year-old to marry a 16-year-old. Well, why is it okay for that, but not a 12-year-old to marry a 16-year-old? Like, you can keep
I am drawing a line, but what you're not understanding is
What's the line? What's the line? What's the number?
Maturity. It's not a number.
It's not a number. What is the number? What is the number? It needs to be a number, or else you can do the same thing.
I just told you there's not a number.
But do you see why that's a problem?
No.
If there's no defined... So why can't a 12-year-old marry an 18-year-old?
Because most 12-year-olds haven't gone through puberty yet. And most 12-year-olds...
as you just said, it changes. What if a 12-year-old went through puberty early, the parents consent, the 18-year-old and the parents consent? Can they do it?
Most likely that's not going to happen. You know why? Because Islamically...
If we're not talking most likely. Just say it. Can they do it?
If there's harm involved, then it's not going to happen.
How do you know there's harm involved? You wouldn't know until it happens.
If the family's not going to... If it's not good for the child, if the child's not mentally ready yet, if the child's not mature...
The kid is consented?
If the families have consented, the kid is mature, the kid is ready... Why should I stop
at 12 years old? At 12 years old.
If the kid is physically mature, the parents consent, both parties are happy.
A 12-year-old being physically mature.
If that's the only line that actually makes sense. We've just established how yours doesn't make any sense. We just established how yours makes no sense.
So, okay, here's the issue. SNEAKO's line, I don't agree with, but at least he has a line. Charlie has no fucking line. SNEAKO's logic is based off of physical maturity, which again, I don't think that's good enough. I think it has to be mental maturity as well. And again, mental maturity comes from brain development. And I've already gone into that over and over, the science based around that. But at least he has a line and a reason for why that line is established. Charlie has no line, and even the line that he's putting that he's trying to put out there is arbitrary. It's not based on anything other than, well, that's just what it is. It's the Eric July logic. It is what it is. That's not intellectually honest.
Right, because you change your definitions 50 times. I'm saying there is no consistent line. People mature at different ages.
Neither
Who am I to tell you?
Definition of maturity. You keep saying how it fluctuates.
Yes.
Like you are admitting it fluctuates.
Do you agree that people... Okay, do people mature at different ages?
People mature at all kinds of different ages.
Exactly.
But there needs to be a set one. Like 18. 18 being an agreed upon one makes it very set in stone with what is and is not acceptable. In your world, you just said a 12-year-old can be physically mature enough to marry an 18-year-old. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's a huge. Yes.
I don't encourage this, but I would much rather live in a society that allows a physically ready, whatever age, if I'm 14 something, if they're physically ready, the parents consent. I'd much rather live in a society that encourages marriage instead of cutting your penis off. That's the issue. You can't have this.
See, do you see why that's creepy though? So then we'll extend it to you. Let's say again, all of this is going through the SNEAKO utopias here. You got 14-year-olds marrying, all of this. Are you going to play by those rules now? Are you going to start looking at 14-year-olds that might be physically mature?
You've asked me this question 3-4 times, and I've given you the same answer. That's not my personal taste. That's not what I like. I want somebody that's around. I want a girl that's younger than me. I'm 25. I'd rather. Do you know that peak fertility happens when, after you go through puberty? Like when a girl's 16, that's peak fertility.
So you want a peak fertility 16?
I don't. I'd rather a girl. My ideal wife person. If you're gonna ask personal question, my ideal wife is probably 20, 21 years old. When I'm 26, 27, that's the ideal. If she's 24, she's 23, that's fine. There's an age gap. Okay. And you know what's funny about that? If I'm 25 and if my ideal wife is 20, if you go follow the Romeo and Juliet laws, in a couple years before I'd be a pedophile. Okay. This is why it's silly.
It's not silly though. There needs to be an age. You're not giving an age. You're giving an obtuse definition of maturity, which fluctuates so much from 12 years old to 14 years old.
Let's look up the definition of maturity. If I'm giving an obtuse definition of maturity, let's look it up and see who's following it.
Okay, so now you
everybody can look
on your beliefs.
I told you what I believe in, and I'm pretty sure this is what the definition of maturity is.
You can't give a number.
The definition of maturity is the state, fact, or period of being mature. You know what it does not say?
Again, like the way Charlie's talking, he acts like there's something inherent to the number 18 itself, but he's not explaining what that is. Why is the number 18? What makes the number 18 so fucking special? There's nothing inherent to that number that would make it a logical point to define an adult. At least with SNEAKO, he says that, well, it's not a number, but it's a physical state, which is more tangible than an actual number. I don't agree with that, but it is a more tangible argument. Now, my argument, again, it is a number. It's 25. But the number, I'm not saying 25 has any inherent value because of the number 25. I'm saying the number 25 has value because of the scientific studies having to do with brain development. And that's what gives the age of 25 its value. Charlie has no argument for what makes the age of 18 inherently valuable in regards to this argument. Again, he's bringing the what, he's not bringing the why.
18. It's not saying age. Maturity depends on the state.
I want you to say one, because there needs to be one in a society.
Why do you want me to say one?
Because there has to be. There has to be an age. If you don't agree that it's 18, then what should it be? You said when you can legally drive. That makes it 15 or 16.
We're going in circles, and I told you. And I said the age of driving should be the same as the age of consent. You said it's because of maturity, correct?
18 is, yes, 18 is
No. You said adulthood means maturity, correct?
Adulthood means over 18, yeah. That's when you are outside of your parents. Again, you're not a child.
That's not actually what the definition of the word means. You are making up a definition of maturity. Same thing as you do with childhood.
Same thing you're doing with your ideal world. Like, all of it is, you have to have these. They have to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have to have lines, but you have to have reasons for why the lines exist. You can't just make them up out of thin air. There has to be reasons for why they're there, Charlie. That's what you're not getting.
There needs to be an age. Like, there just has to be. You can't have these arguments where children are marrying adults.
Why do you have to have an age?
Because then you end up in a situation like we just showed with a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old where you said that's okay. That's not.
And why is that wrong?
That is completely wrong. That is a 12-year-old.
Okay, you said the
18-year-old.
Remove the age for a second because I think it's confusing you. Why is that wrong?
That is someone who is literally still in middle school. That is someone who is playing with fucking dolls right now.
That's a middle schooler and a high schooler. But why is that wrong? Tell me why that's wrong.
No, it's someone who's going off to college, most likely.
Tell me why that's wrong.
The person going off to college is driving. The person going off to college is working. The person going off to college is in a totally different state than someone who is literally still playing with dolls. Mm-hmm. Like, that is not okay under any circumstances at all.
So you're saying it's because there are different stages in life?
It's a child versus an adult. I guess to even get back a little bit, do you think there's not a problem with a child being with an adult?
Okay. We haven't even agreed upon what a child and an adult is. You keep saying that it's 18.
Under 18 is child.
And I'm telling you, that's not even the definition of the word. You're having a conversation.
You don't care about definitions most of the time, though. Like, you're not even using a definition for maturity that has an age attached to it that needs to be in place.
Because that's not the definition of maturity, right? We can't have this conversation if we don't set in stone what these words mean. Child means somebody that is not physically mature. Adult means somebody that's physically mature. That's what those words mean. You are making up, based off of numbers, what defines these words, and that's not even what the words mean. So you can call it beebophile, you can call it statutory rape, you can call that what that is, but that's not what those words mean. And I'll concede to that. If you want to call it those words that actually mean what they say, then fine. But based off child and an adult, you're wrong.
Okay. So then I guess we just won't see eye to eye on it. So,
but it's not even seeing eye to eye. Why can't you accept the definition of these words? Is the dictionary wrong?
No, like I said, the definitions are fine of these words, like maturity and all that. But that does.
But not even that. The definition of child is somebody who's not physically mature yet. Are you okay with the definition? Simple question. Are you okay with the definition of child?
That is a fine definition of a child.
Okay. Are you okay with the definition of adult? Somebody who's physically mature?
Yeah, that's a fine definition too.
Then you are on the same page as me. Child and adult.
No, because I still agree there needs to be a line where these two things get separated. There needs to be a place where this one is a child, this one is an adult.
But then you're being hypocritical. You contradicted yourself, because if now you're agreeing that a child, what separates a child and adult is physical maturity, then it's puberty. And early in this conversation, you said before 18, if someone has sex with someone before 18, they're a pedophile. After 18, they're good. Now you're not saying that. You're going in circles. So it's either
when did I contradict?
The definition of pedophile is child lover. Right? We define that. Okay, so we define three terms. Child, somebody not physically mature. Adult, somebody physically mature. Pedophile, child lover. Okay? Now, based off those definitions, 18 has nothing to do with it. There's no numbers.
But there needs to be. That's the point I'm making. There needs to be. You can't leave these things up to ambiguous, well, this person and their family consented to marrying this 13-year-old and their family consented, so it's fine. Because it's not. It can't be.
Do you concede that you've changed your definition of all these words in this conversation?
Probably. This has been so all over the place, I don't know where we're at. So there's a very good chance.
You started off by saying, and you said it so many times in this conversation, that 18 means an adult and before 18 is child. Now you're saying it's physical maturity.
No, I've still stood strong. 18, adult, under 18, child.
Is anybody else hearing this?
Like that.
You just changed your opinion in the span of 10 seconds.
I've never folded
in the span of 10 seconds, I just defined these and you agreed. I said child is not physically mature. Adult is physically mature. Pedophile is child lover. You agreed. Then I brought up 18 and then you changed it. Now 18 is adult.
Exclusive. That's not mutually, those definitions are fine. But that you still need to classify in society what is and is not an adult, where that maturity is on a number.
Okay.
You have to do that.
The number has nothing to do with physical maturity, the definition that you just agreed upon.
It 100% does in terms of this relationship between a child and a fucking adult. It does.
I don't even know what you think a child is anymore. Is it somebody physically mature or somebody under 18?
In society. But if you want to define child as puberty, that's fine, because that is the textbook definition of a child.
Okay.
Yes, there is a term for that. It's like, again, it's like ebiphile or something like that. So there is actually a distinction.
And you agreed that's what the definition is.
Yes, that is a fine definition. But you can still fall under 18 and be a child.
Okay.
That is the point.
Fair.
You are under 18, you are a child, you fall into
I understand what you're saying, and now I can understand your difference between legal and morality, right? There's a difference between legal and morals, right? Is Dr. Disrespect messaging, I don't know if he messaged a 17-year-old, it's fine. Let's use this hypothetical. He messages a 17-year-old. Is he a pedophile?
As we've gone in circles. I would say it's a bad thing, and if we're going to
You're not answering the question. No. It's a simple question.
I would say you are going to a child.
You're not making sense.
Going to a child.
You don't know what this person is. You just said it's somebody physically mature.
It's a minor. He said it's a minor.
You've changed the words. I've heard so many different words for you. It's a legal minor, but is he a pedophile?
Yes, it's talking to a child. Yeah. We're going to simplify it even further. Yes, he's talking to a child pedophile, sure.
Your morality is arbitrary. It depends on nothing that makes it. It doesn't make physical sense because you just said it's based on maturity and now it has to do with age. Those are two separate things.
I never said based on maturity.
No consistency.
I said there always needs to be a line. You can define a child based on puberty and adult based on maturity. That's fine, but there needs to be a line where this line over it is adult, under it is child. That's
not even what you believe in.
How is that not what I believe in?
Because you just said it's maturity.
What do you mean?
You just said it's physical maturity. Why are you following something that you don't believe in?
What are you talking about? The definition of child and adult is fine, but there needs to be a line in society where over here you go into this category, under here you go into this category. It's crucial.
Okay.
Otherwise, we have what you had, where 15 and 16-year-olds are marrying adults.
Leave the legal thing out of it. Dr. Disrespect is messaging a physically mature 17-year-old who's
I don't believe there's such a thing. I don't believe there's such a thing.
You just said there was.
No, it's under a child. Under 18, you fall into the child category. You had puberty probably, or maybe not, as you said, but you fell into the child category under 18. It's just, to me, it's that black and white. I don't think there's a huge argument. I don't know why that's so hard to understand, brother.
Last time, because we're going in circles.
I know.
An adult is someone who's physically mature, correct?
The definition of an adult, maturity, yep, and over 18.
Not the definition. We need to agree upon a definition.
Brother, the definition's fine. The definition doesn't bother me.
So it's not about you. Do you agree the definition of a child is somebody not physically mature?
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yes.
That's fine.
A child is somebody not physically mature, correct? Hold that thought.
Okay, not physically mature.
Yes. Dr. Disrespect message a physically mature 17-year-old.
No such thing. You can't prove it. How's the 17-year-old physically mature? They're not. So in my eyes, 18.
Do you understand what a hypothetical? Do you understand what a hypothetical is?
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought you were.
It's a physically mature 17-year-old.
Okay.
Based off your definition, an adult.
Uh-huh.
An adult 17-year-old, correct?
Nope. No such thing as an adult 17-year-old. There's no such thing as an adult 17-year-old.
Somebody.
That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
You just said it exists.
I never said a 17-year-old could be an adult.
When does someone become an adult? Okay. Based off. I can't believe I'm hearing this right now. I genuinely can't.
But
Okay.
It's super simple. 18 is when the maturity starts to kick in, and that's when you become the adult. That's what we've established. Anything under that, you're still a child. You could have gone through puberty.
Are you afraid of getting canceled or
adult.
something? Like this is it's like this doesn't make any sense.
No, it's what I believe. Like it's just that simple.
But it's literally not what you believe.
How is it not what I believe?
You just said an adult is somebody physically mature.
Right. And I don't think you can be physically mature under 18.
What?
I don't think you can be physically mature under 18.
Puberty has nothing to do with age.
He can't be fucking serious, right? What the fuck is he? What the fuck is he? Yo! You can be. There are examples of people being physically mature before they turn 18. That doesn't mean they're mentally mature, but physically mature, yes. That's a scientific fact. What the fuck is happening?
What does that have to do with anything I'm missing?
If I'm a man, I go through puberty at 17. I physically become an adult, right? It has nothing to do with 18. Do you understand this? Now I'm an adult because I'm physically mature.
Are you 18?
All right, you really don't want to.
Charlie, there is no scientific, biological basis for this idea that the day you turn 18, your body somehow becomes physically mature on that exact date. What the fuck are you talking about?
Get canceled. This is
no. It's just the truth. You need that there.
This is incredible.
I think that's where the distinction goes. I think it's super simple.
Mm-hmm. All right. I hope everybody listening can see where the consistency, because I don't think I'm going to get through to you. It's you're looping, but I hope you're able to see. Maybe you are too, but I think that you're just afraid of like losing a platform or something, or getting angry, getting your audience angry with you. But do you see how arbitrary this is to define pedophile?
So I've got to agree with them on this. I think here's the thing. I think I can tell by Charlie's body language, the facial expressions, the way his voice is. I can tell that Charlie knows he's being intellectually dishonest, but he's not willing to admit to it, and he's not willing to give any kind of credence to what SNEAKO is saying. Because Charlie has such a large audience and a large platform that he is trying to fence it as much as possible. He's trying to cast the widest net possible and trying to not offend as many people as possible, so that he doesn't lose any subscribers or supporters or anything because he may say the wrong thing. And that's part of the whole transgender thing here too, is he's not willing to say that a 9-year-old is not fucking capable of making any sort of major decision. And they're not, because he doesn't want to offend anybody. He doesn't want to get canceled. And it's just, I don't know. Like, it's really fucking, I mean, it makes sense from a business standpoint, but at the same time, it's intellectually dishonest. And it's also just it comes off very fucking grifty, and I'm not gonna lie, but that's like a real it just turns me off. It just turns me off completely, because if there's one thing I can't stand, it's intellectual dishonesty. It's one thing to be wrong, it's another thing to be intentionally intellectually dishonest. I cannot fucking stand that.
Based off of a specific number, even though it doesn't physically even make sense.
No, I don't see why that's silly. I think that's entirely necessary.
Okay.
Because you need that number. Otherwise, you're going to have 14 and 15-year-olds marrying adults, like you said is okay.
Okay. Yeah. This is incredible. Where does your morality? I want to leave on this. I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I do want to touch on this before I go. Where does your morality come from?
We already went over this, right? Personal experience and everything I take in from the world and process up in here.
Okay. 10 years ago, did you believe that a child can go through transgender therapy? Can they cut their penis off?
10 years ago, I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't unaware of it. And then when I learned about it, I formed my own morality on it based on everything I saw, read, came to my own conclusions.
Okay. If I told you when you were a kid that it was okay legally and morally to cut your dick off, would you agree?
Like, what do you mean? Would I do it, or would I say that that's okay?
Would you say that that's okay?
I'd have no idea on how to even process something like that. I'm a fucking child.
How old are you now?
Or,
29.
yo, dude, if you can't even process, if you just admitted you couldn't even process that because you're a child, but yet you think the child is able to process the all the complexities of that situation or to make that kind of decision? Oh my God, dude.
Okay. When you were 10 years ago, like, and you had heard about, because this was still bubbling. There was I think Caitlyn Jenner was first popping up. This was like the talk of the town. If I told you 10 years ago, try to remember that Trump is running for president, 2014. What's happened? Like, Obama's still in office, right? I tell you it's okay to cut kids' penises off. You saying that's cool?
So 10 years ago,
Yeah.
I'd say let me look into it, and probably if it's a decision they came to with professionals and their family, I'd say yeah.
You
I'd
said-
say
you
you
said
have
that's
the
gonna go?
entire. I'd say you have the right to make that decision for yourself. Yeah.
Can you? I don't even know how to get through to like the people like you sometimes. Why? Because why is it
Well,
okay? Why? Okay, I'm not trying to be. Why do you think a kid can consent to that, but they can't consent to marriage? Why can a kid consent?
We're going in circles. I just said when it comes to a marriage, it's no longer just a personal decision. It's not. You take on a
We've
whole new
also
person,
established that
whole
a
new person's family.
transgender surgery is also not.
Look, kids are not developed enough to make personal decisions. They're just not. Most kids are fucking stupid. You don't trust a child to make decisions. Period. End of story. Because they're kids. They're fucking stupid. I was a kid. I was fucking stupid.
Not a personal decision.
It is. It is a decision you are making,
You're also saying "I do" to the marriage, which is a personal decision.
and then you are bringing in an entirely new family dynamic from this adult.
And why does that then make it wrong? Because other people are involved.
Because this is an adult. This is a predator who is coming into your life.
A predator?
Yeah. If you are marrying an adult as a child, that's a predator.
Okay. And it's not predatory for the doctor to lure a kid into an office and cut his penis off?
Oh, he's luring kids into the office now.
Yeah,
with what,
there's
like, hand-me-down
advertisements.
fishing rod?
Chris Tyson from maybe a kid saw your collab with Mr. Beast. He got inspired by Chris Tyson. He gets lured in because Chris Tyson.
Maybe a 24-year-old watched your streams like, oh, you know what? This 15-year-old's pretty mature. I'm gonna go ahead and start trying to talk to them. Do you think that's cool?
No, that's not cool. You're supposed to talk to the father before you get married. If her father's not okay
Well,
with it, then
that's
what
the
happened?
issue you had with that scenario.
Yeah, but when you approach marriage, you don't just go approach a girl and that's not what Islamically is allowed. You're supposed to go to the father and supposed to see where it goes from there. So that's never what I said.
24-year-old talks to the father of a 15-year-old and gets his permission. Now it's cool.
Get to the father and say, like, am I interested in marrying your physically mature, your adult daughter? Okay, is she okay with it?
15-year-old,
Ask the
your
mother.
15-year-old daughter.
Get the consensus. Yes, and if he's okay with it, she's okay with it. I think that's fine. That's
All right. This is starting to drag, and like I'm not going to go through like the whole entire rest. I mean, I think you guys get the point. Like, this shit is just fucking retarded. On the one hand, there's a lot of arguments that SNEAKO's making that I just don't agree with. But on the other hand, Moist has absolutely no logic or reasoning behind anything that he's saying. And he is contradicting himself time and time again. He is getting trapped in circular logic. It's an endless loop that leads nowhere. And I don't know what I don't think that he's intellectually astute enough to realize what the fuck he's doing. I mean, Moist is coming off really fucking dumb. And even though I don't disagree, even though I disagree with SNEAKO's arguments, I can at least understand where he's deriving his logic and reasoning from. I don't agree with it, but he's at least making a fucking argument that's based on something. Charlie is making an argument based on nothing. I mean, it's just fucking like, I could debate SNEAKO far better than what Moist Critical just did. Moist Critical, I mean, is this his first debate? I mean, I'm sorry, but I've never seen anyone debate this horribly before. Like, it's fucking frustrating. It's fucking frustrating. But no, I agree. I agree. They're going in circles, and I think we get the gist of this. I'll skip ahead to the end, but I think I'm done because I'm just at this point, like mentally, I'm just exhausted and frustrated.
What was that? Sorry, you cut out.
Should Chris Ice be banned on YouTube?
Yeah, at the very least demonetized, because at that point it is dangerous to the audience. That is someone who has preyed upon a child, and in the audience there is children.
Do you think he's going to be banned on YouTube?
I have no clue.
He's not.
There's no way of knowing.
Do you think I should be
Well,
reinstated?
disrespect isn't either.
Okay. Do you think I'm going to be reinstated on YouTube?
I don't think so. Probably not.
Funny, right? I never.
And I didn't agree with the deplatforming on YouTube either.
Funny how that works.
I've said that before.
Yeah, it can never be more clear, like how obvious the agenda is. Satanic people who have some sort of.
Your disrespects of me.
Okay, now we're getting into the whole satanic cabal stuff. Like I'm not going into that. All right, yeah. Here's the thing. I don't agree with either of these guys, and for very different reasons. I just don't agree with the arguments that SNEAKO's bringing, but I don't agree with Charlie because his arguments are based on nothing, and he's being very intellectually dishonest, and that's something I can say. SNEAKO, I don't agree with. But at least SNEAKO is being intellectually honest, and that I can at least respect. Even if I disagree with somebody, if they're at least being intellectually honest, I can respect them. I can't respect what Charlie's doing right here because honestly, what Charlie's doing is making a mockery of the whole purpose of debating, of the whole institution of debating in and of itself. It's really fucking frustrating. And I feel like, honest to God, maybe he should just stick to making commentary videos and leave the debating to other people. Because this is just bad, man. This is bad. All right, chat. I think we're gonna call it a night. I'm tired. I found this to be very interesting, though, in a lot of different ways. Interesting and frustrating at the same time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be streaming tomorrow night again. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I don't know what I'm going to stream about tomorrow night, to be honest with you, but I'll find something to stream about tomorrow night. We'll see what happens, but I'll stream tomorrow night. Thank you guys for showing up. I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I do. I thought this was fucking fascinating. This is simultaneously one of the most frustrating debates. It's one of the most frustrating debates, but it's also one of the most interesting debates I've ever seen. Because on the one hand, we have somebody that's intellectually dishonest and is not astute enough when it comes to the topics that he's talking about. And then on the other hand, we have somebody that is very astute on the topics he's talking about, is being intellectually honest, but I disagree with his points. I disagree with his arguments. That's an interesting dynamic. I don't usually see that because usually in a debate, I tend to side with one side or the other. In this case, I don't really side with either one, but I don't know. It's just, this was just just from an intellectual standpoint, this was a very, it was a good intellectual exercise going over this. I enjoyed losing my brain cells way more than I needed to today. All right. Well, thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.